Chapter 1186. Although tens of thousands of people had entered the heavenly road so far, no one had succeeded, and the one who had gone the furthest was White Tiger. But this did not affect the confidence of the crowd, because the only one who could be considered an expert was White Tiger, and he was about to pass. Moreover, the failure of others was a great reference for those who had yet to pass. One small clue would reveal the general trend. Furthermore, there were so many precedents. Throwing a brick to attract jade, everyone finally grasped what exactly was going on in the first stage of the Heaven's Road. The first stage of the Heavenly Road tested one's body and essence chi. Here, one could only use one's body and the power of one's body. Other things like primordial spirit, chi, refinement cultivation, non-body magical powers, and spirit treasures could not be used. The Heavenly Road had 9 levels, so the corresponding body refining stage should also be divided into 9 levels. Each level was divided into 9 steps, and when 9 by 9 returned to 1, it was perfection. On the road of body refining, there was pressure from all directions, like the pressure of Mount Tai above one's head, the pull of the magnetic force under one's feet, and the pressure of the air as thick as porridge. In each level, within 9 steps, the pressure of the next step would be 1 level higher than the previous one, and after 9 steps, the pressure would double. Of course, one should not underestimate each small level, as each small step would only increase the pressure by 1 level, depending on how big one's starting point was. Didn't you see that many Golden Immortals, Primordial Unity Golden Immortals, and even Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals did not even take a step? In fact, this was just a doorway. Although the fortuitous encounter was good, it was not something that just anyone could seize. After all, the reason why Hong Jun set up the Heavenly Road was to nurture the best of the best, to select the best of the best. To step into the Heavenly Road, one had to at least reach the Primordial Unity level, and not just any ordinary Primordial Unity level, but the 6th level of the 9 Transformations Origin Art. This kind of peerless primordial unity level could challenge those of a higher level. Of course, this was just the entry requirement. If one wanted to go further, or even past, the conditions should be understood by looking at White Tiger. After understanding that the first level was a test of body refining cultivation, and seeing that White Tiger was about to pass, some experts finally could not help but ask, "Let's go too. We can go now. White Tiger is about to pass the first level. If White Tiger can reach that step, I think I can too." The experts of the Dragon race, the Phoenix race, the Kirin race, the Yao race, the Wu people, the Herculean Ox Devil, the Great Mountain Ape, and many others began to move. These races were born with powerful bodies, and they had specialized body-refining divine arts. Therefore, while they couldn't claim to be the best in the world in terms of physique refinement, they were all above average. Sure enough, with the White Tiger's experience and the observation of so many people's situations when clearing the instance dungeon, as soon as these people entered the Heavenly Road, they flew up with irresistible force. 1 step, 2 steps, 9 steps, 10 steps, 11 steps, 18 steps, 19 steps, 20 steps, 27 steps. It wasn't until the 64th step that these people suddenly slowed down. Over there, Mount Tai above their heads seemed to have been replaced by Mount Buzhou. The magnetic rays of bipolar magnetism beneath their feet seemed to have become the magnetic force of the Earth's veins and lungs. The water-like viscous air around their bodies seemed to have become solid, making it difficult for them to move forward. At this point, if one wanted to continue advancing, they would have to be exceptionally talented, and they would have to cultivate supreme body-refining divine arts like the 8-9 mysteries, the 9 transformations technique, the undying body of blood, the body of the true dragon, and the body of the heavenly phoenix to the 8th level. Although the body of the true dragon and the body of the heavenly phoenix were not as famous as the 8-9 mysteries and the 9 transformations technique, it didn't mean that they were weak. The reason why they couldn't compare to the 8-9 mysteries and the 9 transformations technique was because they had reached the peak of demi-saint or even the limit of secondary sage. They couldn't achieve mixed essence. However, apart from this, they were not at a disadvantage in other aspects. Because of the Heavenly Road's appearance, almost everyone above the grand heavenly immortal realm was attracted to it. It was supposed to be the most tragic, soul-stirring, and exciting battle after the Great Sorcerer and Demon War. But because of this, the Battle of Zhuolu ended anticlimactic. Although Xian Yuan and Qi Yu were still there, and the soldiers under their command were always ready for battle, listening to orders and ready to fight. However, the helpers he had invited had basically all disappeared. Not to mention Xinyuanzi, Kuanpeng, and other experts at the peak of Demi-Saint. Even the three religions, except for the 12 golden immortals of the clan of enlightenment, had basically gone to the heavenly road. After all, what kind of reputation could compare to the heavenly road with the opportunity of mixed essence? The reason why Guangqingzi didn't leave was because he was Xuanyuan's teacher, and he had the same idea as Xian Yuan. Although the opportunity of the heavenly road was good, he was not strong enough. Instead of fighting for the heavenly road, he would rather follow Xian Yuan and help him fight for the position of the human sovereign and unify the human race. By then, he would be blessed with karma, and his cultivation would skyrocket. He could even turn around and fight for the opportunity of the heavenly road. However, if he gave up the position of the human sovereign's teacher, not only would his previous efforts be wasted, but he would also offend Xian Yuan and end the human race. If he returned without any achievements in the opportunity of the heavenly road, he would really suffer a double loss. As for Yuding, Huanglong, and the others, they were hindered by the honored lord of the Origins Order. However, although they didn't leave, their hearts were not here. At the same time, they were even more dissatisfied with the honored lord of the Origins' preference for Guangqingzi. After all, they were different from Guangqingzi. Even if Xian Yuan got what he wanted and ascended to the throne of the human sovereign, the one who would benefit the most would be Guangqingzi. This was also the reason why Xinyuanzi and the others turned around and left without hesitation. There was no special reason or relationship. In the end, benefits were fundamental. Compared to the benefits of the heavenly road, the reputation of the sages was nothing. Unfortunately, they could leave, but C.I. Hang and the others could only watch. After all, they were disciples of the clan of enlightenment. For a moment, the root of the apatheicized world's disaster was buried deeper. Let's not talk about this for the time being, because the experts of the Wu people and the Xianmen sect had gone to the heavenly road. However, the battle between Xian Yuan and Qi Yu did not end because of this. Both of them wanted to defeat each other and become the human sovereign. Then, they would be blessed with karma and break through their cultivation. Then, they would fight for the opportunity on the heavenly road. Maybe they would have a place in the last 10 positions. Qi Yu, in particular, was one of the strongest great sorcerers of the Wu people. His cultivation was above sage to be. If he had not reincarnated into the human tribe, he would have gone to create the heavenly road with Xing Tian and the others. Now, he was eager to recover his cultivation. Therefore, although Xing Tian and the others had left, Guangqingzi and the others were still there, and the strength of the Zhili tribes seemed to be weaker than Xian Yuan Yoxiong. Qi Yu did not hesitate to launch an all-out attack. Qi Yu wanted to end the battle quickly, but so did Xian Yuan. Although he was afraid of Qi Yu's Du Tian deity banner, Xian Yuan was not without confidence. Previously, it was because of the fairy-slaying sword formation of many treasures. Now that the sword formation was gone, Xian Yuan still had the 12 Yuanshan protection formation. Chapter 1187. You can't put all your eggs in the same basket, and you can't pin your hopes on the same person. Otherwise, the mountain will fall, the water will flow, and the people will walk. Although Xian Yuan had the support of the Xianmen, the clan of enlightenment, and the honored lord of the beginning, it didn't mean that he was completely dependent on the clan of enlightenment, like a vine. After all, he was the human emperor chosen by the heavens, and he was the best choice in everything. Because he was still very weak, he was sheltered by the clan of enlightenment and the honored lord of the beginning. As an emperor, he couldn't only have one trump card. Therefore, for this day, Xian Yuan first told Shino how powerful he was, and asked him to help him convince the son of Shino to join forces with the Lu clan to fight against the Chao clan. Later, he asked for the 3 ancestors of the human race, and claimed to be Yanwei. From them, he obtained the protective formation of the human race, the 12 Stars formation. This formation evolved from the 12 protective totems of the human race, namely the Zishu, the Yin-Hu, the Mao-Tu, the Chun-Long, the Si-Shi, the Wu-Ma, the Wei-Yang, the Shen-Monkey, the Yu-Ji, the Su-Go, and the Hai-Ju. This was a formation given to the human tribe by the way of heaven. Although it was not as good as the 3 ultimate formations of the untainted land, it was definitely not inferior to the Yin and Yang dust sword formation of the tribe of Run, the 10,000 immortals formation of Dong Wang Gong, the 10,000 dragons facing the sky of the dragon tribe, and the 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix of the phoenix tribe. More importantly, this formation could borrow the power of the way of heaven in times of crisis, just like how sages borrow the power of the way of heaven. Because of this formation, Xian Yuan was full of confidence. Even without the immortal slaying sword formation, he dared to compete with Qi Yu. Kill, kill. In order to save time, and also because they knew each other very well, there was no so-called test, and the two sides directly entered the decisive battle. Under the leadership of the 81 chiefs of the Zhili tribe, who were also primordial unity golden immortals, millions of soldiers of the Zhili tribe directly set up the 9-9 mystical Yin formation. Buzz! In a split second, the clouds rose from the southeast and the fog penetrated the northwest. In a flash, the wind and rain were so strong that one couldn't even see their own fingers. Even their divine sense was compressed to a radius of 3 times around their body. Boundless murderous aura surged over, instantly changing the world. Those who did not know would have thought that they had arrived at the northern underworld of hell. Boundless mysterious Yin Qi instantly condensed into 80 half-step grand heavenly realm experts. Seeing this scene, Guang Qingzi and the others could not help but be stunned. Of course, it wasn't because the 9-9 mystical Yin formation was something they couldn't handle. Instead, it was because the simplified version of the great divine fiend formation was already so powerful. How powerful would the great divine fiend formation be? Although the 9-9 mysterious Yin formation is powerful, does our Yuxiong tribe have no formation? But now is not the time to think about this. Xian Yuan waved the flag in his hand, and millions of soldiers moved. In a split second, the warriors of the Yuxiong tribe who were wrapped by the 9 mysterious Yin formation seemed to be thawed as an inextinguishable flame appeared above their heads. That little flame was the purest and most holy. The dark, evil Qi perished when it touched it, and the darkness was dispersed. A single spark could start a prairie fire. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. More and more sparks appeared like mushrooms after the rain. Not only were there more and more sparks, but the sparks were also getting brighter and brighter. In an instant, the mottled sparks turned into tens of thousands of golden lamps. Endless light and heat bloomed from the golden lamps, bringing with it the power to destroy everything. Tens of thousands of golden lamps. Not only did the 3 schools of Xianmen produce 3 sages, but they also had their own strengths. Among them, Laozi was good at alchemy, Primitive was good at crafting weapons, and Tong Tian was good at formations. But that didn't mean that Laozi didn't know how to refine weapons and formations. Primitive didn't know how to refine pills and formations, and Tong Tian didn't know how to refine pills and forge weapons. However, in comparison, Laozi was inferior to Primitive in refining weapons and formations. Tong Tian was inferior to Laozi in refining pills and formations, and Tong Tian was inferior to Laozi in refining weapons and refining pills. But at the same time, it didn't mean that other skills were weak apart from his own skills. For example, Laozi's method of refining weapons was also well known in the world. The acquired Vajra bracelet, the human emperor's divine dragon whip, the Xian Yuan sword, the sea-stabilizing divine needle used by Yu the Great to control the flood, the mountain-splitting axe, and so on were all refined by him. As for formations, Mountame, a branch of the Rin school in the future, relied on the Yin and Yang dust sword formation to dominate the world. It was like a sharp blade hanging over the heads of the evil giants in the world. Since the Rin school was like that, the Chan school naturally wouldn't fall behind. Although he hadn't heard of the primeval Lord of Heaven's reputation in the land of elixirs and the famous pills he refined, he did have a formation. That formation was the 10,000 golden lamps formation that Xuan Yuan's Tao soldiers were using. This formation was modified by the primeval Lord of Heaven based on his peerless magical power, the auspicious cloud golden lamp. The auspicious cloud golden lamp itself was a defensive magical power. Its defensive power was not inferior to the Khanate five-direction flags, the 3 books of heaven, earth, and man, and the 5 lotus seats. Once it was used, all evils would be repelled, and all spells would not be touched. It would ignore the attacks of any treasures or weapons, and be immune to all magical powers and spells. Inside the auspicious cloud, the primordial world was faintly visible, and the sun, moon, and stars shone on it. In the auspicious cloud, 5-colored light dyed the sky, and the 8 celestial sounds resounded in the universe. Outside the auspicious cloud, countless golden lamps, golden lotuses, jade necklaces, and beads fell from the auspicious cloud, like dripping water in front of the eaves. Moreover, this magical power was equivalent to the primeval Lord of Heaven's natal magical power, just like Laozi's 1 Qi turning Sanqi. As the primeval Lord of Heaven's cultivation improved and broke through the primordial chaos, the power of the auspicious cloud golden lamp naturally increased. Now, this magical power had reached the level of a Khanate defensive treasure, but it was already better than the Khanate 5-direction flags, the 3 books of heaven, earth, and man, and the 5 lotus seats. Just like the Godslayer in the past, although it was still a top Khanate spiritual treasure, its attack power was not weaker than Khanate treasures. This could be seen from the primeval Lord of Heaven's attempt to break into the immortal slaying sword formation during the War of the Gods' Investiture. There is no need to mention the power of the immortal slaying sword formation. The primeval Lord of Heaven went straight into the immortal slaying gate. On the 8 trigrams platform, sect leader Tongtian's hand made a thunderous sound and shook the immortal slaying sword. The sword swayed. The sword Qi rushed into the sky, and the light was cold for thousands of years. However, the primeval Lord of Heaven only showed the auspicious cloud above his head. There were thousands of golden flowers, jade necklaces, and beads, so the immortal slaying sword Qi could do nothing to him. Putting the auspicious cloud golden lamp aside, the 10,000 golden lamps formation was evolved by the primeval Lord of Heaven based on the auspicious cloud golden lamp. However, it was not a simple defensive formation, and its attack power was quite extraordinary. It was probably not weaker than the 10-sun refining sky formation that Hongjun Tiandao gave to the 10 golden crows. Using the power of qi and blood to ignite the golden lamps, each golden lamp was like a big sun. The light and heat spread in all directions, and it could be said that it was easy to avoid all evil. In particular, it had a miraculous effect when dealing with the 9x9 mystical Een formation, the Devil Path, or the Ena Tribute formation. Chapter 1188. Attack and Defense in 1. After all, the 10,000 golden lamps array evolved from the auspicious cloud golden lamp. Naturally, it retained some of the peerless defensive power of this mystical ability. It was precisely because its attack was comparable to the 10-sun refining array, and its defense was not under the Khanate 5-direction flag. Even though the Tao soldiers under Xianyuan were slightly weaker than Qiu's Zhili tribe, they were in a stalemate for a while. Seeing this scene, both Xianyuan and Guang Chengzi heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. If even the 9-9 mystical Een formation could not withstand it, then there was no need to mention the more powerful Great Divine Fiend formation. Although the battle for the position of human sovereign had already surpassed ordinary wars, if all the soldiers under his command were to die, even if he won in the end, he would not be able to sit firmly on the position of human sovereign. The merit and luck he would obtain in the end would definitely be greatly reduced. That was something that Xianyuan and Guang Chengzi could not accept. Unfortunately, what they did not know was that even if they obtained the final victory in the original trajectory, they would also suffer losses to kill 1,000 enemies. Although Guang Chengzi obtained the human emperor merit, he did not soar to the sky like the great Taoist Master Xiandu. Instead, Due to negative karma, he suffered a calamity in the 9-turn Yellow River Array during the Great God Conferment War. What about Xin Yuan? In the end, he ascended to the Tao by having sex with 3,000 women. Putting that aside, knowing oneself and the enemy was the key to victory in 100 battles. Fighting a war was definitely not just about killing. Logistics and intelligence were also very important. It was precisely because he knew that the Jili barbarians under Qiyu had practiced the 9-9 mystical Yin formation, which was simplified from the great divine fiend formation of the Wu people, that Guang Chengzi specially went to Kunlun Mountain and asked the heavenly lord of primordial beginning to bestow the 10,000 golden lamps array. It was precisely because of this that an ordinary Tao soldier array would not be a match for the 9-9 mystical Yin formation. After all, he had condensed 81 half-step zenith heaven. This strength was impressive even in the dragon and phoenix battlefield of the sorcerer and demon era. As for the 12 golden immortals of Chan's school, many people did not have such strength. What a good Xin Yuan! Chan's school is indeed impressive. Seeing that his 9-9 mystical Yin formation was actually blocked by the soldiers under Xin Yuan, Qiyu could not help but sigh. Qiyu could not help but sigh inwardly. As expected of a saint's faction, it could not be underestimated. Although the great 9-9 mystical Yin formation was only a simplified version of the great divine fiend formation, it was definitely not weaker than the great formations of some of the major clans and factions. And yet, Xin Yuan was able to easily hold them off. Although 81 half-step Grand Luo formed from profound Yin Malice Qi were charging left and right, it was clear that they would not be able to breach the barrier of the formation in a short amount of time. Looks like I still have to take action personally. I still have to use my trump card. Qiyu muttered to himself. Kill. However, he didn't hesitate. The opportunity of the path of heaven was right in front of him, and he didn't want to delay or miss it. As the saying goes, take advantage of his weakness and kill him. Qiyu naturally needed to chase after the enemy and capture Xin Yuan in one go. Although they had resisted the 9x9 mystical Yin formation, Guang Chengzi and the others were the only ones left after Jin Yuanzi and the others left. Qi did not believe that these useless people could resist the divine being's fiend formation. Xin Yuan, surrender. You know that I still have the divine being's fiend formation. You're definitely not a match for me. Don't struggle pointlessly. Qi took out the divine being's fiend banner and said loudly, looking at the heavenly God-killing banner, which had just been taken out and had not even been put into a formation. Its baleful aura had already soared to the sky, causing everyone to be in a daze. In an instant, the entire battlefield was silent. Then, the Jili tribe seemed to be on steroids. The great 9-9 mystical Yin formation immediately erupted, and the 81 people formed from profound Yin Malice Qi showed faint signs of breaking through from half-step Grand Luo to Grand Luo. Once they succeeded, the myriad golden lamps would collapse on their own. What about Xuanyuan's side? Their morale instantly fell to rock bottom. If it wasn't for the myriad golden lamps formation's decent defense and resilience, as well as their trust in Xin Yuan, the forces under Shenong Sun's command would have probably scattered like birds and beasts by now. The divine being's fiend formation's reputation was really well known, and it struck fear into people's hearts. Anyone who had some knowledge knew about it. It was precisely because they knew that they were even more afraid. After all, the might of the great sorcerer and demon war was still fresh in the minds of humans, especially when the demon race used the Jot Eon star formation to suppress the human race, almost causing the human race to go extinct. That kind of helplessness still sent chills down people's spines. The divine being's fiend formation was a formation that was as famous as the Jot Eon star formation. How could Xuanyuan's subordinates not be scared out of their wits? Not to mention ordinary people, even Guang Chengzi and the others who were mentally prepared were terrified when they saw this scene. Fortunately, they did not know that their backer, the primeval Lord of Heaven, was no longer at Kunlun Mountain. He was watching them from the Hollow Jade Palace and could help them if they were in danger. Instead, he was summoned to the Purple Cloud Palace by Daozu. If they knew, they would probably be no better than those ordinary soldiers. Si Hang and the others turned around and were about to leave. After all, a gentleman would not stand under a collapsing wall. Damn that duo bow. As expected, those who aren't on our side are still unreliable. I'll definitely complain about him to teacher when I get back. Although Xian Yuan is a disciple of Chan school, the battle for the human emperor involves the entire celestial sect of wonders. He doesn't care about the overall situation. At that moment, Guang Chengzi and the others were filled with dissatisfaction towards Duo Bao. After all, according to the original plan, the immortal vanquishing sword array in Duo Bao's hands was the trump card to deal with the divine being's fiend formation. It was precisely because of the immortal vanquishing sword array that they had the confidence to fight Qi Yu. However, as soon as the heavenly road appeared, Duo Bao turned around and ran away with the disciples of Jie School. If you want to run, just run. It's good to leave the immortal vanquishing sword array behind. However, they forgot that a treasure like the immortal vanquishing sword array could not be given to others casually. Even if it was given to them, they would not be able to use it without practice. At that time, it would be good enough if they did not suffer a backlash from the array formation, let alone setting up an array to fight Qi Yu. After all, the immortal vanquishing sword array was a killing array and was abnormally ferocious. Qi Yu, I already knew that you had the divine being's fiend banner in your hands, but I still dared to fight you. Do you think I wasn't prepared? Just as their morale was plummeting and Qi Jingzi and the others only knew how to complain about Duo Bao, but were at their wits' end, Xian Yuan took a step forward and pulled out his sword with a whoosh. Roar! Accompanied by Xuan Yuan's confident voice, the ancient sound of sword being drawn suddenly sounded throughout the entire battlefield. It was like a dragon's roar, a tiger's roar, and a phoenix's cry. The voice was very ancient. When it landed in the ears of others, a majestic aura surged towards them. However, when the Zhuli warriors and Qi Yu heard it, it was filled with boundless killing intent. It was like a guillotine hanging on their necks. Chapter 1189. With a clang, the sword was unsheathed, shining with a cold light. With just a flash, it revealed its true form. It was as large as the void, with cloud patterns and dragons carved on the sword, containing profound gist of truth. The Wu-slaying sword. No, it should be called the human sovereign Xian Yuan sword. This sword was a peerless sword that Di Jun and Tai Yi had specially refined to deal with the Wu people and slaughter Zhu Wu. It was a supreme, killing treasure, made with the essence of stars, copper of the first sun, and other treasures of heaven and earth as its materials, with heaven and earth as its furnace, sages as its blacksmith, and billions of souls of the human clan as its soul. It was refined with the blood of the human clan. As soon as it was born, it shocked the entire desolation and the 10,000 sword salute. Later, several Zhu Wus had fallen under this sword. After the Great War of the Sorcerers and Demons, Di Jun, Tai Yi, and the 12 Zhu Wu had fallen one after another. The Wu people had Hutu, so they were fine. Although the demon clan had Nuwa, they were outnumbered and had been divided up. Except for the demon summoning banner, which had fallen into Nuwa's hands, the ancient book and river diagram had been swept away by the Kuanpun. The bell of chaos had been taken away by Fang Qingshan, and the Wu-slaying sword had fallen into Lao Zi's hands. It had been modified in 8 trigrams alchemy furnace, from a killing treasure to an imperial treasure, and given to Xian Yuan as a treasure to protect the human clan. Such a treasure was comparable to the Godslayer of the past, and had the power to kill sages. Although Lao Zi had 2 treasures, the mysterious yellow pagoda and the Tai Chi diagram, they were more than enough for defense, but not enough for offense. He should have kept such offensive treasures for himself as a trump card. When the time came, he would be able to attack and defend at the same time. Even 4th stage Origin Immortals might have chance. However, he had directly given this treasure to Xian Yuan. Was it because he didn't like it? Did he think it was too much killing? Actually, it wasn't. The main reason was that the karma of this treasure was too heavy. The Wu-slaying sword was good, but it was backed by mountains of corpses and seas of blood. It had been refined by Di Jun with billions of souls and flesh of the human clan. If that was all, it would be fine. The point was that Laozi was also one of the accomplices. It was he who acquiesced to Di Juntai's attack. Although they said it was a test from Hong Jun Tiandao, who knew what was going on. In any case, the outcome was that as the sect master over in school, he watched helplessly as the human race was almost destroyed by the Di Jun demons. Fortunately, he and Yuhua did not abandon themselves to the human race. In this case, although I covet the Wu-slaying sword, I can't control it completely, so I can only reluctantly give it up. As for the great Taoist Master Xiandu, it was even more impossible. Moreover, this sword was the nemesis of the Wu people. It was fated to be with Xian Yuan, and it was a necessary artifact for him to fight for the throne. In the original trajectory, Xian Yuan relied on this sword to completely dismember Qiyu. If I lose the position of the human emperor because of my greed, then the loss outweighs the gain. The Wu-slaying sword was indeed worthy of being the nemesis of the Wu people that Di Juntai had painstakingly refined. Xian Yuan only pulled out the sword, and it instantly made Qiyu and the others shudder, as if there was a blade on their backs. The morale that had just been raised because of the divine killing banner was immediately suppressed. Even Qiyu felt as if his heart had been squeezed by someone. Fortunately, he did not take out his defensive treasure and retreat. Wu-slaying sword. Seeing this sword, Chiyu's pupils suddenly shrank. Although it had changed its appearance, he still recognized it in an instant. As a grand wizard who had experienced the great sorcerer in Demon War, no one knew better than him how this treasure could restrain the Wu people. At the same time, a sense of hatred arose spontaneously. After all, it was because of his treasure that several Zhu Wu died on the spot due to carelessness. It was also because of this that the Wu people were dragged into a life-and-death struggle by the demon race. Otherwise, the Wu people would definitely have one in the end. I didn't expect this treasure to fall into your hands, and you dare to take it out in front of me. How dare you? Do you think you can sit back and relax with the Wu-slaying sword? Wishful thinking. At this moment, the killing intent in Chiyu's heart had reached its peak. Di Jun, Tai only used this treasure as a trump card to catch me off guard. Do you think I will be fooled again? If this is your trump card, then go to hell. As soon as he finished speaking, Qiyu waved his hand and took out the 12 divine killing banners. The moment he saw the Wu-slaying sword, Qiyu had only one thought. Kill. Kill Xian Yuan. Take the throne of the human sovereign, and live up to the expectations of Hutu and the other Zhuwu. Destroy the Wu-slaying sword to avenge the past. Bang, bang, bang. The 12 divine killing banners instantly fell according to a mysterious formation. At a speed visible to the naked eye, they outlined a slightly illusory formation diagram. It was best to have a formation diagram. Not only could it maximize the power of the formation, but it could also increase the speed of setting up the formation. Especially for some complicated formations, the formation diagram was especially crucial. The one who attacked first had the advantage, and the one who attacked later would suffer. Otherwise, in a real battle, unless you set up in advance, no one would give you the time to set up the formation. The so-called fair fight did not exist at all. If there was no formation diagram, it was better to have the formation flag. Although the formation flag was slightly weaker than the formation diagram, it could also exert the power of the formation, and at the same time, it could be set up quickly. However, compared to the formation diagram, the formation flag was easier to break. Roar, roar. As the divine killing banners took root, the illusory formation diagram became real. The diagram unfolded like a painting, and boundless evil chi rolled over. From the outside, the entire sky above the great divine fiend formation seemed to have turned into a funnel, sucking in all the fiendish aura from all directions. At the same time, a series of demonic roars broke out in the formation. In the area where the formation diagram unfolded, the entire space was completely separated from the original heaven and earth. It was controlled by the formation diagram and turned into an independent formation world, completely enveloping Xian Yuan, Guang Qingzi, and the others. Damn it! Seeing this scene, Guang Qingzi and the others didn't have time to feel happy about the birth of the Wu-slaying sword, which suppressed the arrogance of Qiyu Jiuli. The only one who didn't feel bad was Xian Yuan. But at this moment, even Xian Yuan was a little nervous. Seeing is believing, and seeing is better than hearing. Although Xian Yuan had long known the illustrious reputation of the divine killing formation and was more or less prepared in his heart, he didn't know that it was 10 times or even 100 times more powerful than he had imagined until he faced it. If it weren't for the trump card in his hand, Xian Yuan wouldn't have any confidence at this moment. What he didn't know was that the power of the formation he saw at this moment had been reduced. After all, it was only Qiyu who set up the formation. The great sorcerers of the other 11 branches had left, and Qiyu was now only a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. Otherwise, after gathering the great sorcerers of the 12 branches, Qiyu could restore his original cultivation, and the power of the divine killing formation could be several times stronger. Chapter 1190. Xian Yuan had underestimated the power of the great formation. Although he still had a trump card in his hand, he wasn't completely confident. After all, compared to the unknown great formation of a human race, the great formation of the heavens was much more powerful. However, at this point, the arrow was knocked, and he had no choice but to release it. He could no longer back down, unless he gave up the position of the human emperor. However, he would die if he gave up, but he might still have a chance to live if he did not. He knew that there was no other way but to fight with his life on the line. Moreover, he was the leader. If he lost confidence, the others would naturally have even less confidence. War was not just a battle of cultivation, manpower, logistics, equipment, formations, but also morale. Only the brave would emerge victorious in a battle, beating someone in the face, killing someone in the heart. Moreover, I might still be able to fight. Xian Yuan cheered himself on. Although the 12 origin star formation could not compare to the great formation of heavenly fiends, it was still a top-notch formation, especially since it could be augmented by the human Tao's luck power, and he was recognized by the human Tao as the chosen human emperor. Yet, the great formation of heavenly fiends was not at its peak. Under such circumstances, it was still unknown who would emerge victorious. Even if he failed, at least he had tried his best and had no regrets. Since I know you have the great formation of heavenly fiends, how could I not be prepared? The Wu people have the great formation of heavenly fiends, so do the human race. 12 origin star formation, rise. Following Xuanyuan's shout, the 12 guards who had been standing beside him all this while took a step forward and instantly appeared in front of everyone. Then, their auras erupted, and they were no weaker than the 81 mystical real bodies formed by the 99 mystical formation. All of them had the cultivation of a half-step Grand Luo. What? How is this possible? Damn, they're actually half-step Grand Luo. Who are they? I didn't expect Xian Yuan to have such a trump card. It was not just Qiyu, even Guang Chengzi and the others were shocked when they saw this scene. Although they had seen these 12 people often, they had always been by Xuanyuan's side. After all, they thought they were Xuanyuan's bodyguards, but they never knew that they were so powerful that they all had the cultivation of a half-step Grand Luo. They were half-step Grand Luo, although they were incomparable to the Khanate gods and primordial gods. Even Guang Chengzi was only mid-stage Grand Luo, and Huang Longzhen was only mid-stage primordial unity. What they didn't know was that these 12 people were not strangers. They were the trump cards that Xian Yuan had specifically asked for from the 3 ancestors of the human race. They were the masters who had arranged the 12 Yuanshan Great Formation. Although humans were born with Tao bodies, they were also naturally weak. The human race Tao path body. In ancient times, for the sake of survival, the human race developed the totem art. The so-called totem was a kind of natural or blood-related relative, ancestor, or guardian deity worshipped by primitive tribes. The human race provided the power of faith to these totems, borrowing the power of the totems to strengthen themselves and protect the tribe. While the totems used the power of faith to strengthen themselves, it was a mutually beneficial process. The 12 gods are the most special of the totems. They were the strange beasts that were close to the human race. Zishu, Chonyo, Yin Hu, Mao Tu, Chen Long, Si Shi Wu Ma, Wei Yang, Shen Ho, Yu Ji, Su Go, and Haiju. They protected the human race and were worshipped by the human race. Perhaps it was because of the 12 primordial planets, the heavenly stems, and the earthly branches, or some other reason, they eventually fused with the human Tao and became the divine guardian beasts of the human race. Because of this, the human Tao bestowed upon them a peerless formation, the 12 primordial planets formation. Although the 12 of them were only half-step grand luo, even a demi-saint or a demi-saint with 2 corpses might not be able to win against them. If they could communicate with the human Tao and enhance themselves with the power of the human Tao, they could rival peak demi-saints and even suppress saints. The formation status in the human race was similar to that of the Zodion star formation in the demon race and the great divine fiend formation in the Wu people. However, apart from the ancient demon race's massacre, the human race did not face much danger at other times, so they did not use the formation. Therefore, the formation was not well known. If it weren't for Xuanyuan's prowess and Chiyo's unwillingness to serve the Wu tribe wholeheartedly, even though he had already reincarnated as a human, the 3 ancestors of the human tribe actually didn't want to get involved in the battle for the throne. Just like Shino, he did not intervene, even though he knew that his stupid son wanted to fight for the position of the human sovereign. Now, although they listened to Xuanyuan's words and secretly took action, they could not go too far. At least, they had to look presentable on the surface. Therefore, they bestowed this peerless formation that had never been seen before. This way, if Xianyuan won, there would be nothing to say. Even if Chiyu won in the end, at least they would have a fig leaf. Putting all this aside, seeing that Xianyuan had prepared a backup plan and that the 12 primordial planets formation had given Chiyu a certain amount of pressure, he immediately activated the great divine fiend formation without hesitation. Boom! With a loud noise, the 12 banners of fiend shook at the same time. Following that, lines of shaman markings appeared one after another and gathered together, outlining the corresponding Zhu Wu totem. Then from the Zhu Wu totem, 12 rays of lightning representing metal, wood, water, fire, earth, time, space, weather, wind, rain, thunder, and lightning shot out at the same time. They strangely gathered in Chiyo's palm and strangely fused together, turning into a gray ball of lightning. There seemed to be a unique law of heaven and earth circulating within it, forming a world of its own. Go! Chiyu pointed from afar, and the ball of lightning flew out of his hand. Rumble! It was deafening and earth-shattering, as if the sky and earth were being split apart. Wherever the lightning went, in an instant, the entire void shattered on the spot. Within the lightning, the power of the heavenly divine malice completely erupted, destroying the heavens and the earth. The power was so strong that even the 9-9 mystical Yin formation and the 10,000 golden lamps formation seemed to be affected. Some of the fiend chi in the mystical Yin formation was devoured and became thinner. The condensed mystical Yin real body barely fell to the late stage of primordial unity. The 10,000 golden lamps were like candles in the wind, about to be extinguished in the next moment. Although Xianyuan, Guang Qingzi, and the others were separated by 12 primordial planets, they were forced to retreat hundreds of miles. At the same time, they took out their treasures to protect themselves. The Great Heavenly Divine Fiend Formation was worthy of being called the Great Heavenly Divine Fiend Formation. Its reputation was well-deserved. It had not yet condensed the real body of Pangu. Just the combination of the 12 Dutian thunder into one was like the eruption of a complete world. It rolled over with boundless sharpness. As the lightning struck, the originally solid and unbreakable space rampart was cut in half. In response, it was directly cut in half on the spot. Earth, fire, water, and wind surged under the lightning, crazily wreaking havoc. As expected of the divine thunder of creation, its magical power was indeed immeasurable. Chapter 1191. The great formation of divine fiends was indeed powerful, and the Dutian thunder it summoned was also exceptionally sharp. Even an ordinary mid-stage demi-saint, might not be able to escape unscathed. Fortunately, this was only the great formation of divine fiends, a Dutian thunder summoned by Chi-Yu, and the 12 primordial stars were not to be trifled with. Ever since the birth of the human race, the 12 of them had been worshipped as totems by the human race for the sake of protecting the human race. Later on, they were even enhanced by the power of humanity. Although their cultivation base was only at the half-step Grand Luo realm, it was only temporary. As the human race continued to grow stronger, and as long as the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors were restored, the human race would become the main characters of the world, and their cultivation base would skyrocket. Just like when the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors attained Tao, even if their cultivation base could not catch up to the 12 primordial stars, breaking through the Grand Luo realm and Demi-Saint realm would only be a matter of time. At that time, once the 12 primordial stars formation was set up and enhanced by the power of humanity, they would probably be able to fight against the primordial chaos saints like the 3 ultimate formations of desolation. Now, although it was not that powerful, it should not be too much of a problem to deal with the heavenly thunder of creation. Among the 3,000 great Daos, space is the king, and time is the supreme. Seal. The 12 primordial stars roared at the same time. One by one, they revealed their true forms. Just like the Wu people's true form of Zhu Wu and the demon race's law phenomenon, they were as big as a mountain, standing tall and upright. Mice have no teeth, cows have no teeth, tigers have no spleen, birds have no lips, dragons have no ears, snakes have no feet, horses have no guts, sheep have no spirits, monkeys have no buttocks, chickens have no kidneys, dogs have no intestines, and pigs have no tendons. The way of heaven takes away surpluses to make up for deficiencies. The way of man takes away the deficiencies to make up for the excess. The 12 forces of Chou, Yin, Mao, Chun, Si Wu Wei, Shun Yu Su, and Hai fused together and turned into a seed. Like a locator, it instantly guided a long, hazy river that flowed out from an inexplicable void. Whoosh! The sound of surging water lingered in the ears. A great river connected the past and present. It was unknown what color it was. The long river gurgled, unknown where it started and unknown where it ended. It had no head or tail, boundless and boundless. Yet it seemed as if it wanted to take away all the vicissitudes of time. Amidst the waves, one could see the unchanging events of the past. The great war of the dragon and phoenix, the great war of the shamans and demons, Daozu becoming a saint. One could also see what was happening now, the heavenly roads opportunity, the battle of Zhuolu. One could also see the changes in the future, Xuanyuan's victory, mastering the Tao with 3,000 women, Chiyo's victory, borrowing the power of the human race to revive the Wu people. River of space-time. The past, the present, the future, the past, and the present were all within. The 12 primal star grand array was actually connected to the river of time. Although the Dutian thunder was terrifying, it did not tear the river of time apart when it fell into the river of time. Instead, it only slammed against the shore, stirred up 1,000 piles of snow, stirred up clouds like arrows, and echoed the sounds of mountains and valleys. Of course, this did not mean that the Dutian thunder was weak. It was just that Chi-Yu was the only one setting up the array, and his cultivation level was about the same as Guangchengzi's. If not for the fact that he was from the Wu people, had the divine banners of Dutian, and had practiced this array formation before, it would have been impossible for him to successfully set up this peerless array formation. The 12 primal star grand array was also known as the 12 zodiac grand array or the grand array of time. It represented the 12 months of a year, the cycle of time, and the change of spring and autumn. It represented the 12 earthly branches. In fact, Fang Qingshan also knew this array formation. He had once exchanged for 2 sets in the God-Fiend battlefield in the Eternal Kingdom Great World. One of them had been integrated into the kingdom capital he had created in the Eternal World as a trump card. The other had been integrated into the Timeless Arc to strengthen its foundation. However, compared to the 12 primal star grand array of a human race, the array formation that Fang Qingshan obtained was not inferior. except for the fact that it could not communicate with the power of humanity. After all, the 12 primal star grand array not only had the array diagram, but it also had 12 innate spiritual meridians. It was self-sufficient, and there was no need to worry about a lack of mana. It could grow endlessly. As long as one's defense could not be broken in one blow, it could simply exhaust a person to death. The River of Time. What a great 12 primal star grand array. It can actually summon the River of Time. Looking at this grand array, even Guangchengzi and the others felt their scalps go cold. Apart from the Time Demon God, who could borrow the River of Time. In the entire desolation, apart from the Candle Dragon, Zhu Wu, who was proficient in the Law of Time, and the Candle Dragon, who was an expert of the dragon race, the other sages could not summon the River of Time, even if it was just a shadow. The power of the divine fiend formation was within their expectations. When the Duqian thunder fell, even a sage-to-be who had killed the two corpses would be defeated if he did not have any defensive treasures. The River of Time, summoned by the 12 primal star grand array, was in no way inferior. Furthermore, compared to the tyrannical thunderbolt, the power of time was even more mysterious. Divine fiend formation, Duqian thunder. I did not expect to see this supreme formation again after the great sorcerer and demon war. Indeed, a centipede dies but never falls down. Good fella. It's not surprising that the Wu people have such strength. However, I did not expect the human race to have such a formation. They are indeed the main characters of the world. River of Time. What a great River of Time. Although everyone was attracted by the opportunities in the Heaven's Road, the aura that erupted in the martial deer battlefield still shocked everyone. After all, the 9x9 mystical Een formation and the myriad golden lantern formation were not bad. However, they could only fight against a sage-to-be at most. However, the divine fiend formation and the 12 primal star grand array were completely different. Even the most powerful peak sage-to-be, quasi-sages, and utmost beings would not dare to say that they could break through these two formations. At the very most, they could only maintain a stalemate. Besides those who had already entered the Heaven's Road, everyone else had basically split some of their attention to the martial deer battlefield. On one hand, they could use this opportunity to observe these two supreme formations, which would more or less be of help to them. After all, they did not normally have such a good opportunity. This was especially true for the divine fiend formation. If the 12 Zhu Wu were to use it, they would not dare to act so brazenly. Even if they did, they would need to be alive to enjoy it. During the Great Sorcerer and Demon War, someone had tried to take advantage of the fact that the sorcerer and demon races were not paying attention to him to pry into the depths of the two great formations. However, in the end, he had been crushed to smithereens. Although this person's cultivation could not be considered top-notch, he had still reached the late sage-to-be level. Moreover, he was an array expert called the Formation Elder. He was obsessed with arrays, and if he had broken through to primal chaos, his array cultivation would have been no weaker than the omnipotent realm. Alas, arrays were created, and arrays were destroyed. Thus, after that, no one else dared to seek their own death. And now, the divine fiend formation was not at its peak. If it did not pry into it now, then when? In addition, they also wanted to see whether it would be Qi Yu or Xin Yuan who would be the final victor. After all, once the two of them fought it out, the human emperor would return to his position, and with the blessing of karma, he would instantly break through to the peak of sage-to-be, or even quasi-saint. He would become an expert no weaker than Fuxi or Shinno, and they would have one more competitor. Chapter 1192. Xin Yuan, what a human. I didn't expect you to have such a trump card. You can summon the River of Time. Qi Yu was shocked when he saw the River of Time. Among the 12 lineages of the shaman tribe, the Candle Dragon's lineage specialized in controlling the laws of time. In the past, he had seen the Candle Dragon summon the River of Time in order to look into the future. However, even the Candle Dragon had used the power of the Pangu Hall to summon the River of Time. Compared to the Candle Dragon's difficulty, summoning the River of Time was much easier, and the backlash was not strong. Qi Yu had thought that he would be facing one of the 3 great formations of desolation, the fairy slaying sword formation. Later, when the opportunity on the path of heaven erupted and the treasures of many treasures left with the fairy slaying sword formation, he was relieved. He thought that it would be easy today, but he didn't expect Xian Yuan to have such a trump card. He was indeed the destined human emperor. He had endless trump cards and could not be underestimated. Unfortunately, it is still inferior to the great formation of the Wu people. Today, I will let you know why there are so many formations in the world, but only 3 great divine formations. However, even after seeing the River of Time, Qiyu still had absolute confidence in the great formation of divine beings of killing. This confidence came from fighting. When the 12 Zhu Wu were still alive, even the sages had to retreat because of the great formation of divine beings of killing. Even the Zhodian star formation, which was also one of the 3 great formations, was easily broken during the first great sorcerer and demon war. If it was the fairy slaying sword formation, which was also one of the 3 great formations, Qi would be worried. After all, his cultivation had not fully recovered, and the great formation of divine beings of killing could only be used by the Wu people with 12 meridians. Although he was surprised by the 12 meridians formation, he believed that as long as the power of the great formation of divine beings of killing was fully unleashed, no one below the sage level could resist it, unless it was one of the 3 great formations. The great formation of divine beings of Pangu, Pangu's real body, appear. As Qiyu shouted, the great formation of divine beings of killing finally revealed its ultimate power, Pangu's real body. Rumble. However, within the great divine fiend formation, an even more powerful devouring force swept over. Even the sea of blood was stirred up as a boundless, baleful aura surged over. The heavens and the earth shattered. Chaotic storms swept across, and earth, wind, water, and fire wreaked havoc. A supreme Taoist rhyme spread out, and the chaos calmed down. But in the primal chaos, there was a green lotus with 36 petals, stabilizing the entire primal chaos world. It was like a white jade pillar that supported the heavens, a purple gold beam that supported the sea. With it, the entire primal chaos world was as stable as a boulder, symbolizing the great Tao, symbolizing an eternal and unbreakable defense. A burly figure broke out of the green lotus. His muscles coiled, emitting an ancient and solid pressure. The aura of strength intimidated the surroundings, suppressing the ages. Pangu. At a certain moment, Pangu, who was being nurtured by the green lotus, opened his eyes. His gaze was like that of a bull. The sun and moon floated and sank, and black and white alternated. Boundless might radiated from his entire body, and explosive power filled every inch of his flesh and blood. His muscles were distributed all over his body, giving off smooth curves. It was extremely perfect. If one closed their eyes, what they felt was not a person, but the great Tao of force. Qiyu stretched out his hand, and a huge axe appeared out of thin air. This axe was not an illusion. Instead, it was a divine axe that was specially refined for the great Shaman Fiend War. Since the great divine fiend banner had been bestowed, this divine axe would naturally be no exception. In an instant, a series of cracking sounds could be heard. The great divine fiend formation seemed to tremble, unable to bear the burden and showing signs of collapsing. Humph! The manifestation of the human Tao's fate. Qiyu used the ultimate mystery of the great divine fiend formation, summoning Pangu's true body. This affected the stability of the great divine fiend formation, and a strong pressure surged over. Although they were not very confident, it was hard to get off the tiger's back. The great divine fiend formation could only brace themselves and continue. At this moment, they could only place their hopes on the human Tao. Qiyu shouted, not to be outdone, directly summoning the power of the human Tao. To the human Tao, the great divine fiend formation was like the 5 sacred beasts to Hongjun Tiandao. Roar! Therefore, as they pushed the array to its limit, a loud dragon's roar tore through the sky and echoed across the sky. First, a vast, ocean-like heavenly lake appeared out of thin air. On it was a record of all the important events of the human clan since the birth of the human clan and the creation of humans by Nuwa. At this moment, almost all of the human clan, including many people from the Jili tribe, were looking at the heavenly lake above their heads with sincerity. Rays of pure power rolled into it. This was the heavenly lake of fate that belonged to the human clan. Inside it was the human clan's fate. White, red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, gold, and purple. They represented the 9 different colors of fate. White was the weakest, while gold and purple were the most valuable. Today, the human clan was about to become the main character of the world and represent the fate of the human Tao. Not only was the heavenly lake only second to the heavenly Tao in size, it was no smaller than the Tao of heaven and the Tao of hell, and the fate within it was almost overflowing. The color of the fate within it was golden, and there were even faint traces of purple light. Then a golden dragon with 9 claws, no, 8 claws, because the last claw had not been fully nurtured yet, soared into the sky. It soared into the sky, roaring and roaming above the human clan, shuttling back and forth, with the heavenly lake of fate shrouding it. There was no way to see its full appearance. Only a few scales and claws could be seen, and one could not see its head and tail. However, it made it look even more majestic. Whoosh! As the 12 origin stars summoned, a miniature golden true dragon suddenly appeared in the heavenly lake of fate. The true dragon was lifelike, and as soon as it appeared, it landed on the 12 origin stars. Boom! In an instant, the 12 origin stars' cultivation base began to skyrocket. Their cultivation base was originally at the half-step Grand Luo, but there was nothing stopping them now, and they naturally broke through to great overarching golden immortal. And this was just the beginning. Early Grand Luo, middle stage, late stage, pinnacle, rumble. They broke through to demi-saint once more, and only then did their unstoppable cultivation base stop. Originally, when the 12 origin stars was only a half-step Grand Luo, they could only set up a formation and summon the River of Time to fight a mid-stage demi-saint expert. Now that they had broken through to quasi-sage, even though it was just an external force, it was only temporary. Once the energy of the people Tao receded, they would return to their original state. If they were lucky, they could seize the opportunity to break through to Grand Luo. If they were unlucky, they would be devoured by fate and might not even be able to maintain their current cultivation base. But before the human Tao faded, even a peak demi-saint or a lesser saint would not be worth mentioning in front of them. At the very least, they could fight them. With the support of the human Tao, the 12 origin stars' cultivation base improved greatly, and the River of Time that they summoned turned from illusion to reality. It was as if the real River of Time had descended, and the order of time in the entire world seemed to have been broken. Chapter 1193. Kill. Kill. Both formations had shown their trump cards. Next, it was time to determine the winner. Pangu's real body moved first. Striding forward, he held the splitting heaven axe in his hand and chopped down with it. In an instant, it was as if a chaotic world was torn apart like a piece of paper. Thousands of chaos demon gods fell under the axe. Of course, these were all anomalies. The splitting heaven axe will recreated the grand occasion when Pangu split the sky. However, although it was only a phenomenon, it could only be summoned when the heaven-splitting axe technique was unleashed to the extreme. Moreover, these phenomena were not like a spear that looked good, but was useless. With the support of these phenomena, the might of the axe could be increased by 3 levels. Pangu's real body, splitting heaven axe skill. Now it's just Chi-Yu using the 12 divine spirits killing banner. It's hard to imagine what kind of scene it would be when the 12 Zhu-Wu wields the 12 divine spirits killing banner, not to mention the grand occasion in the hands of Pangu. No wonder Hongjun Tiandao wanted to scheme against the Wu people. Facing such a situation, I'm afraid anyone would be unable to eat or sleep in peace. Seeing this scene, all the experts who were watching the battle gasped in their hearts. At the same time, their fear of the Wu people deepened. This was just a great magus who had not fully recovered. Even with a precious treasure in his hand, he still had such strength. If it was the 12 Zhu Wu or Hutu, there would be no room for them to struggle. Fortunately, Hongjun Tiandao had schemed against the sorcerer and demon races. Both the sorcerer and demon races suffered great losses. Otherwise, everyone would have to live under the thumb of the Wu people. Crack! Regardless of what the others thought, at this moment, the 12 primal stars could not care less. Facing the full power of the great heaven divine spirit's killing formation, they could only devote themselves to the transformation of the 12 primal stars killing formation. Fortunately, the 12 primal star formation was also a top-notch formation. Furthermore, it was a time attribute formation, and it was supported by the power of humanity. Otherwise, the moment Pan Gu's true body's axe fell, the formation would be broken, and he would die. As the 12 origin stars operated the formation with all their might, the summoned river of time transformed into a giant dragon of 2 hours. In a trance, it was as if the Chaos Demon Dragon and the Chaos Time Demon God had merged into one. Roar! The true dragon opened its mouth, and its roar was accompanied by an earth-shattering dragon breath. Like a heavenly waterfall, it drowned Pan Gu's true body. For a time, the flow of time around Pan Gu's true body sped up by 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. If it had been someone else, they would have died on the spot because their life had been taken several times over. Although Pan Gu's true body was not Pan Gu's real body, the strength of his physical body was not weaker than that of a treasure. Even without the protection of the 36 lotus seeds, the protective light around his body firmly blocked the dragon breath of time. The dragon of time had never thought that the dragon breath would be enough to deal with Pan Gu. Therefore, as it spat out the dragon breath, it unleashed all of its abilities, and 18 martial arts techniques appeared one after another. Cloud Dragon Claws. Divine Dragon swings its tail. Proud Dragon regrets. Dragon soars in the sky. Twin dragons playing with pearls. Every move and every technique clashed with Pan Gu's true body until the sky darkened, and the sun and moon lost their light. Even the 9 mystical Een formation and the 10,000 golden lanterns formation had to stay away from them. They had given up on fighting and were defending with all their might. They did not want to be affected by the repercussions of the great heaven divine spirits killing formation and the 12 primal star formation. When the immortals fought, the mortals would suffer. Among the human race, Qi Yu and Xin Yuan fought fiercely. Before the opportunity of the Path of Heavens, everyone rushed forward. After the Path of Heavens appeared, just as the primordial immortals and the saints were confused about Hongjuan's actions, the Purple Cloud Palace once again sent out a message, asking Sanqing, Niuhua, Jin, Junti, and even Hutu and Ro to enter the Purple Cloud Palace. After receiving Daozu's message, Sanqing and the others were confused, but they did not hesitate. Even Ro and Huda hesitated for a while. The desolation caused such a huge commotion, and it was Hongjun who did it. If they could not figure out what was going on, they would not be able to eat or sleep well. As for whether or not Hongjun would take the opportunity to lure them to the Purple Cloud Palace and make them stay, it was completely unnecessary. After all, if Hongjun wanted to deal with them, they could just do it directly. There was no need to go through so much trouble. Most importantly, they were not Hongjuan's #1 enemy. Before they dealt with Yang Mei and Blood Sea, making a move on them would undoubtedly alert the enemy. Ordinary people would not do such a thing, let alone Hongjun. Although the Purple Cloud Palace had appeared above the 9 heavens, because of the Path of Heavens, it was not the Purple Cloud Palace's actual body. The Purple Cloud Palace was an existence of the spiritual treasure of chaos. It was too powerful. Entering the desolation would place a great burden on the universe. Therefore, its actual body was still in the chaos, and the Purple Cloud Palace was just a projection. Therefore, if Hutu and the others wanted to enter the Purple Cloud Palace, they would have to leave the outer space and enter the chaos. Fortunately, Hongjun had taken the initiative to invite them. Therefore, They were able to lock onto the purple cloud palace's aura. It would not be difficult to find it. Otherwise, without guidance, even Feng Qingshan and Yang Mei would find it difficult to find the purple cloud palace in the entire desolation. Following the guidance given by Hong Jun, Hutu and the others soon arrived near the purple cloud palace at their speed. What a great Hong Jun! What a great purple cloud palace! A scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at in a new light. Impressive indeed. If the Wu people, want to take revenge, it's really hard. Damn it, this was originally an opportunity that belonged to me, but Hong Jun stole it. Now the gap between us is getting bigger and bigger. Looks like I'll have to lay low and wait for an opportunity. Without absolute confidence, I can't act recklessly. Teacher is indeed teacher. Unfathomable. The Purple Cloud Palace is getting more and more powerful. Probably even the 3 treasures of opening heaven can't compare to it. When they saw the Purple Cloud Palace, whether it was Sanqing, Hutu, or Ro, they all trembled. Thousands of thoughts flashed through their minds. Although there were many, they were all shocked. However, they saw a divine palace that emitted endless divine might standing in the chaos. This palace was completely purple and emitted an indescribably noble aura. The Tai Chi diagram, Pangu's banner, the 6 paths of reincarnation golden plate, and even the immortal demon sect seemed to be inferior before it. It was engraved with ancient, mysterious Taoist rhymes, which evolved the grand occasion when the Purple Cloud Palace taught the Great Path, and countless powerful figures tirelessly sought the way. Countless Great Path laws circulated. There were 3,000 pillars, and each pillar was a great path. At every moment, there were countless heavenly sounds reverberating. They were suppressing the chaos and absorbing the chaotic essence Qi to cleanse the Purple Cloud Palace. In other words, the Purple Cloud Palace was constantly strengthening its foundation. Although Hutu and the others were powerful and had their own treasures, they could not help but look solemn in front of the Purple Cloud Palace. They stopped flying far away, withstood the pressure, and walked towards the mysterious force with large strides. Chapter 1194. Since all of you are here, please come in. Just as Sanqing and the rest arrived in front of the Purple Cloud Palace, they stopped in their tracks because of the coercion and Taoist rhymes. The aura of the Purple Cloud Palace suddenly converged, and the palace gate opened wide. A figure materialized, and those who didn't know would think that he had been there for a long time. He was dressed in a Taoist robe with a horsetail whisk in his hand. He had white eyebrows and hair, and he gave off a gentle vibe. However, there was an endless resonance of the great Tao around him. The great Tao existed wherever the person was. Seeing this scene, the pupils of everyone, especially Hutu and Ro, contracted again. Greetings, teacher. Greetings, Daozu. Greetings, Taoist. Greetings, Taoist Ro and Taoist Hutu. Greetings, too. After suppressing the emotions in their hearts, the group of people walked into the Purple Cloud Palace under Hongjun's lead and sat down. Hongjun, you've caused such a huge commotion, and now you've summoned us here. What's your intention? Ro saw Hongjun's aura, and it became more and more unfathomable. He exuded an unfathomable aura. The Taoist rhymes were deep. There was a huge gap between them, and it was like the end of the world, making it unfathomable. Even when she was at her peak, she probably couldn't compare to Hongjun. She couldn't help but feel dispirited. Although she still had the immortal demon sect, the demonic treasure, Hongjun's Purple Cloud Palace that he refined himself seemed to be inferior to others, let alone the creation jade plate. She felt a sense of urgency, so she didn't want to talk nonsense and went straight to the point. Hearing Luo Ho's words, everyone looked over in unison. Clearly, Luo Ho had asked the question that was on their minds. Back then, Hongjun had said that unless it was a calamity of the world, Hongjun wouldn't come out. Now that Hongjun had not only come out, but also caused such a huge commotion as soon as he came out, everyone couldn't help but be shocked. Everyone, don't be anxious. Since I've summoned you here, I naturally won't hide anything. Just listen to me one by one. When Hong Jun heard this, he was neither anxious nor angry, neither too fast nor too slow, as if nothing could make him anxious. However, the words that came out of his mouth were shocking. Everyone, do you know that my desolation is facing a great calamity? What? An imminent catastrophe? Teacher, Daozu, old thief, are you joking? Are you trying to scare us? How is this possible? Hearing Hong Jun's first sentence, the crowd immediately burst into an uproar. If it wasn't for the fact that Hong Jun was sitting in front of them in his aura, everyone would have been intimidated. Sanxing and the rest thought that this was a joke and that the doubters had encountered a fake Hong Jun. Even so, although they expressed their disbelief, they believed that Hong Jun wouldn't joke about such a huge matter because it was Hong Jun who said it so solemnly. Therefore, they couldn't help but be skeptical. An imminent catastrophe is facing a great catastrophe, and the desolation is facing a great catastrophe. Why don't we sense it? If there was a great catastrophe, would you still be so calm? Moreover, if the desolation catastrophe is facing a great catastrophe, what's the use of creating the heavenly roads opportunity? Not to mention the difficulty of nurturing 10 primordial chaos beings. Even if there were 10 more, what's the use of it in the face of a great catastrophe? After the shock, Ro was the first to react and immediately retorted. As soon as he said that, everyone could not help but secretly nod. Yes, if it was really as Daozu had said and a great catastrophe was facing them, as saints of the desolation, they would be able to sense each other's sacred heart, heavenly heart, and sacred heart. However, they could not sense it. It was either that there was no problem, or the problem was that they had no power to resist at all. If it was the latter, they would not be affected even if Mount Tai was pressing down on them. However, they would not be as calm as Daozu, right? In addition, as Ro had said, if Daozu thought it was a great catastrophe, even 10 mid-stage primordial chaos beings would not be able to do anything, let alone a few early-stage primordial chaos beings. After all, Laozi and Junti could each suppress 1 or 2 primordial chaos beings who had just broken through and did not have any priceless treasures, let alone Ro and Hutu. In the face of a real catastrophe, there was almost no difference between 10 early-stage primordial chaos beings and 10 peak sage to be. Everyone, don't be anxious. Whether a catastrophe is imminent or not, just listen to me slowly. Hong Jun did not seem to hear Ro's rebuke. His face was still calm as he paused and asked faintly, "Do you know anything about outside the chaos?" Outside the chaos. Just now, he had said that a catastrophe was imminent. Now, he said that it was outside the chaos. Everyone could not help but be speechless about Hong Jun's bold and unconstrained words. At the same time, they secretly guessed that this catastrophe might come from outside the chaos. Although the people present could not compare to Hong Jun, they were not simple. Needless to say, Ro was once a chaotic demon god and a top-notch demon god who was not weaker than Yang Mei. Hutu and Sanxing had Pan Gu's inheritance. Even Yua and Jane Juni had their own creation, Yin, Yang, Karma, and other chaotic demon gods' inheritances. However, even so, they did not know much about outside the chaos. After all, apart from Pan Gu, the rest of the people in the entire chaos only had the same understanding as Yang Mei. Although Hutu and Sanxing had Pan Gu's inheritance, it was incomplete due to various reasons. Therefore, everyone shook their heads subconsciously. Outside the chaos is the boundless void and the myriad realms. Hong Jun was not surprised to see this. If he had not suffered a great loss from Feng Qingshan's timeless arc and learned some bits and pieces from the Great Way, as well as the Poison Marquis's words, he basically knew nothing about it. He would not be able to judge others by his own standards, let alone Ro and the others. After looking around at the crowd, Hong Jun told them everything he had learned from the Poison Marquis. What? Outside the chaos world, there are countless other chaos worlds. And our chaos world is even weaker than some of the desolation worlds, let alone the chaos world of the myriad realms. In the boundless void, those below the origin realm are as common as dogs, and those above the origin realm are everywhere. There are even immortal realm experts who are comparable to Pangu and even surpass him. So there are actually people from other realms who have come to our chaos world. Moreover, these people have even greater forces behind them. Any one of them could topple the desolation world. Fortunately, these people covet the resources and opportunities of the chaos world. Otherwise, if the news were to spread, wouldn't we all become fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered? So this is what Daozu meant by a disaster. This is really a disaster. After hearing Hongjuan's news, everyone could not help but be shocked, palpitating, and afraid. All kinds of emotions were mixed. The only thing worth celebrating was that although it was a disaster, it had basically been resolved. As long as no one leaked the location of their chaos world, they could still hide in the small building for a short period of time. Chapter 1195. The problem now is how to deal with the divine poison marquis. Although the news brought by Hong Jun was very shocking, everyone was a primordial chaos expert after all. Their state of mind was still good, especially since they knew that Hong Jun had already dealt with the big trouble. At least for the time being, nothing would happen. Therefore, after a while, everyone came back to their senses. That's right. We agreed that they must not spread the news of their chaotic world and attract more powerful experts from the other realm. We must also acknowledge them and treat them as one of our own. We must not deliberately attack them. In order to avoid casualties and losses, as well as to obtain what both sides want, we need to conduct a relatively fair duel in the arena. This arena is built by the equalization Great Tao. Both sides adhere to the principle of fairness. Once they enter the arena, their cultivation will be restricted to the same realm and the weaker side. Each side will send 10 people below the primordial chaos level, 6 early-stage primordial chaos, and 3 mid-stage primordial chaos. If the Pangu chaotic world wins, the divine poison marquis and the others must tell us all the basic information about the myriad realms. They must also tell us all the secret techniques they know to break through to the primordial chaos, the cultivation techniques after the primordial chaos, the methods to avoid, break through the Deva's decay, and the secret techniques to break through to the immortal realm. If the divine poison marquis and the others win, we need to give them chaotic spiritual treasures, connate cardinal treasures, the great Tao, and the providence of Hongjun Tiandao. I see. At this point, everyone finally understood why Hongjun had created a heavenly road opportunity and promised a chance to break through to the primordial chaos. It turned out that the main purpose was to deal with the divine poison marquis and the others. If they won, not only would they obtain the great Tao and the providence of Hongjun Tiandao, but they would also obtain the secret techniques to break through to the primordial chaos. When the time came, it would be easy to break through to the primordial chaos, just like breaking through to the saint realm with the primordial violet chi. However, it was obvious that the divine poison marquis and the others came from the other realm. They were knowledgeable and had various means. Therefore, in order to ensure victory, Hongjun had thrown out the bait. Therefore, Hongjun kept improving and threw out the bait to lure the top experts of the primordial world below the primordial chaos, to compete with each other to determine the 10 strongest people. Unfortunately, it's too one-sided. Nuwa sighed inwardly. He was born at the wrong time. If Tai had lived until now, or if the tribulation had come earlier, he might have been able to break through the life and death tribulation and even break through to primordial chaos. After all, Tai was known as the strongest person below primordial chaos. If it were not for the fact that it was much more difficult to break through to the mixed essence realm in the desolation than in the infinite void, and that there was no primordial violet chi, Tai would have been the one with the highest chance of breaking through the shackles. Moreover, even if he did not make a breakthrough, even if a saint suppressed his cultivation, he would at most be able to maintain a stalemate with him. If Tai participated, he would definitely be able to win. After all, if even he could not stand out and win a spot, what hope did the other 9 have? If Tai won and used the light from Providence to break through, the Demon Clan would have one more primordial chaos. At that time, he would not be alone. He would no longer be helpless. Unfortunately, this was heaven's will. What could he do? It's a pity. If the divine poison marquis and the others did not have the protection of the great Tao of equalization, Daozu could directly capture them and search their souls. It would not be so troublesome. If they did not have a trump card, I'm afraid they would have spread the news long ago. By then, I'm afraid even the current situation would not be able to be maintained. That's right. Every peck and every drink is destined. By the way, Daozu, the 10 people below the primordial chaos level, can be chosen through the opportunity on the heavenly road. What about the 6 early-stage primordial chaos and the 3 mid-stage primordial chaos? Just as Nuwa was lamenting about Tai and the fact that she could not do anything alone, and the others had their own thoughts, Hutu, who had been silent since arriving at the Purple Cloud Palace, finally spoke. Her words went straight to the heart of the matter. Logically speaking, there were 9 people here. Sanqing, Jin, Zhuanti, and Nuwa happened to be at the early stage primordial chaos. Hutu and Ro were both at the mid-stage primordial chaos. If Hong Jun was included, he could also be considered a mid-stage primordial chaos cultivator by suppressing his cultivation. This matter would be resolved perfectly. However, the problem was not so simple. After all, in order to increase their chances of winning, Hong Jun had gathered all the experts in the desolation to choose people below the primordial chaos level. One could imagine how difficult it was to deal with the divine, poison marquis, and the others. This was the case for those below the primordial chaos level. In order to achieve victory, did the early stage and mid-stage primordial chaos not have to do the same? Even in the desolation, there were not as many early-stage and mid-stage primordial chaos cultivators as there were below the primordial chaos level. However, this did not mean that there were none. For example, the sacred beasts, azure dragon, white tiger, and the others who were suppressing the 5 directions of the desolation were all experts of the early-stage primordial chaos. Besides them, those who were excluded included Fong Qingshan and Mosquito Dowren from the Blood Sea, as well as Yang Mei, the giant. These 3 people were the best of the best, at least among everyone present, except for Hong Jun. Even if Fong Qingshan and the others suppressed their cultivation, no one dared to say that they could defeat them. Humph! Taoist Hutu's words are unreasonable. The 6 of us happen to be at the early stage primordial chaos. You, Ro Taoist, and Daozu represent 3 mid-stage primordial chaos cultivators. Is there a problem? The Heavenly Road's opportunity could train 10 experts at the primordial chaos. If they participated and won in the end, wouldn't it be just around the corner for them to break through to the mid-stage primordial chaos or even higher? Even if they did not break through, it would be good to obtain some mystic techniques, divine abilities, and even cultivation techniques from the infinite void and the myriad worlds. At least, they could improve their combat power and pave the way for their future cultivation. As for failure, Sanqing and the others had never thought about it. Although they had heard about the infinite void and the myriad world from Hong Jun and knew that the people there were top-notch experts, they were not weaker than them, especially since they were the descendants of Pangu and possessed priceless treasures. Even if they failed in the end, so what? Anyway, their lives would not be in danger. Before the battle, the light from providence of Hong Jun Tiandao would definitely lean toward them in order to fight for the chance of winning. Therefore, they had to obtain a place just for this. Now, according to Hutu, she wanted to get a few more people in. The most important thing was that they closed their eyes and did not need to think to know who Hutu was talking about. If they also participated, it would not be a matter of dividing the cake. Instead, it would be a matter of eating the meat. In the end, some people would only get the soup, and some would not even get the soup. As the saying went, cutting off one's path to wealth was like killing one's parents. If such a great opportunity were to be ruined by Hutu, then it would truly be too late for regret. Therefore, as soon as Hutu finished speaking, the 3 pure ones and the others refuted. Chapter 1196. Unreasonable. Upon hearing that, Hutu's eyes flickered and a mocking smile appeared on her face. She sneered. Ask yourselves, don't you have any idea what's going on? Oomph. Hutu snorted and said righteously, the fight with the divine poison marquis and the others is not just about opportunities or reputation. The fight with the poison god marquis and the others isn't just a matter of luck, nor is it a matter of face. It's a fight between our chaos and the boundless void. If we lose, we will not only lose our personal interests, but also the entire desolation and the entire chaos. If we win, the entire desolation, the entire chaos, and all of you will benefit. If we don't strive for perfection, would Daozu need to create the heavenly roads opportunity? Most of you haven't even reached the peak early stage primordial chaos or the peak third stage primordial chaos. You don't even have a connate cardinal treasure. How dare you say you want to participate in the battle? You, Sanxing, Nuwa, and Junti knew that Hutu was telling the truth, but they were still furious. Can you find any other primordial chaos saints in the entire desolation besides us? Why can't I? Hutu sneered. Don't the five-element sacred beasts have primordial chaos cultivation levels? Their cultivation levels might not be weaker than yours. Plus, the dragon, phoenix, and Qilin are primordial clans with deep heritage. They might even have one or two precious treasures. Moreover, even if there are no early-stage primordial chaos candidates, can't we suppress our cultivation levels and participate in the early-stage primordial chaos battle? Or do you think you can defeat me if I suppress my cultivation level? If you participate in the early-stage primordial chaos battle, what about the mid-stage primordial chaos battle? Although they knew this was not a problem, Sanxing and the others still asked, don't we still have Daozu, Senior Yang Mei, Fang Qingshan, and Mosquito Daoren, the two Taoist sages? At the mention of these three people, Sanxing and the others fell silent. They were not the only ones who were silent. Hongjun was the same. Emotionally speaking, Hongjun didn't want to bring Yang Mei, Fang Qingshan, and Mosquito Daoren in. If he had a choice, he didn't even want Hutu and Ro to know about it. After all, the hatred between them was not small. Let's talk about Ro first. Hongjun and Ro had a battle of the Great Path. If it wasn't for the fact that he was more skilled back then, their positions would have been changed. Where was Hutu? He did not think that Hutu did not know that he had schemed against Wu people. The only reason why there wasn't much of a reaction was because he wasn't as strong as the others. However, between the two of them, one was a defeated opponent, while the other was just a scabbard. Both of them were just grasshoppers at the end of autumn, unable to stir up any waves. But Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan were different. Yang Mei was the only chaotic demon god who had survived the great trial of creation. Without the help of Hongjun Tiandao, even if he used the Fate Jade Plate and the Purple Cloud Palace, Hongjun would not be able to defeat him. But Fang Qingshan relied on the Timeless Arc to make him and Hongjun Tiandao suffer a great loss. He couldn't wait to take revenge on them. How could Hongjun send them warmth and opportunities? Unfortunately, he didn't have enough people. Most importantly, the quality of the people was not good enough. Even if he went personally, the odds of winning were not high. And, rationally speaking, Hongjun knew that what Hood has said was the words of an experienced strategist. As long as Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei joined in, the odds of winning would skyrocket. For a moment, Hongjun was also a little hesitant. Should I ask the two of them to do it? Hongjun hesitated for a moment, but still couldn't make up his mind. If he didn't ask Yang Mei, Fang Qingshan, and Mosquito Daoren to do it, then things would be simple. As Sanxing had said, there were only 6 of them at the early stage primordial chaos. As for the 5 directional sacred beasts, although they were not weak, they were not much better than Sanxing and the others. More importantly, they could not leave the encampment because of their karma ranks. There were Ro, Hutu, and Hongjun at the mid-stage primordial chaos. However, apart from Hongjun, Hutu and Ro were still fine. They were at the 5th stage and 6th stage primordial chaos and had their own priceless treasures. The six paths of reincarnation golden plate and the immortal demon sect had inherited Pangu and the chaotic destruction fiend celestial respectively, and had immeasurable divine powers. However, the combat power of the early stage primordial chaos was a mess. Among the six of them, only Laozi's cultivation level had reached the peak of the third stage primordial chaos, and he had two priceless treasures, the heaven and earth mystic yellow exquisite pagoda and the Taiji painting. Even so, he had enough defense, but not enough offense. Hong Jun didn't know that Laozi still had an exceptional divine power, the one-breath turning Sanqing, which was not inferior to the three-corpse slaying technique. If he knew about it, he would be more at ease. After all, if he used this divine power, Laozi could break the immortal slaying sword formation alone. Even Lao Tzu didn't have much confidence in him, let alone the others. It was fine for Tong Tian to have the immortal slaying sword formation and primordial to have Pangu's banner. The strength of Niuhua, Jin, and Juni was not bad in desolation. However, once they could not borrow the power of Hongjun Tiandao, they would not have an advantage over the people from the other realm in terms of cultivation level, divine power, numinous treasure, combat experience, and so on. On the contrary, they would be at a disadvantage and their chances of winning would be less than 10%. If Yang Mei, Fong Qingshan, and Mosquito Daoren were invited, the situation would be very different. Yang Mei's cultivation level was not lower than Hongjuan's. If he could not use the power of Hongjun Tiandao, Hongjun could only protect itself in front of him. Although Fong Qingshan's cultivation level could not catch up with him in Yang Mei, the power of the timeless arc in his hands was unparalleled. Even a late-stage primordial chaos cultivator would not be a match for him without a corresponding priceless treasure, let alone a mid-stage primordial chaos cultivator. Therefore, if the three of them represented the mid-stage primordial chaos cultivators, they would not dare to say that they would win completely. After all, the divine poison marquis was not easy to deal with. Even so, they could at least win 2 out of 3 battles. If he, Yang Mei, and Fong Qingshan represented the mid-stage primordial chaos cultivators, they would not dare to say that they would win completely. If Mosquito Daoren, Ro, and Hutu represented the early-stage primordial chaos cultivators, these 3 battles would almost be a piece of cake. Coupled with the battle between Laozi and Tong Tian, the early-stage primordial chaos cultivators, there would be almost no doubts. The only problem was that the last opponent would be primordial chaos, Niuhua, Jin, and Juani. The current problem was that although the 3 of them could guarantee that they could defeat the divine poison marquis and the others, they would also strengthen Yang Mei and the others at the same time. If they did not use them, they could not guarantee victory. For a moment, Hong Jun was somewhat uncertain. However, in his heart, Hong Jun actually had a preference. After all, compared to strengthening the strength of Yang Mei and Fong Qingshan's side, he felt that it was more important to obtain the secret technique of avoiding the Deva's 5 blights and breaking through to the immortal realm from the divine poison marquis and the others. In the end, everything was still about strength. As long as his strength increased, even if Yang Mei and the others also became stronger, he would still have the confidence to continue suppressing them. Chapter 1197. Even though Hong Jun was already leaning towards this. After all, compared to letting Yang Mei and the others benefit, avoiding the angel's decay and breaking through to the immortal realm was more important to him. If there was no other way, then he could only pinch his nose and accept it. However, he was still a little unwilling. Saints were humans too. Hong Jun was the same. Ever since the creation of heaven and earth, when has Hong Jun ever had it not been smooth sailing? Only Yang Mei and Fong Qingshan had he suffered in their hands and almost died. This was a life and death grudge that had almost become a demon in his heart. Therefore, if it was possible, he would definitely strike with lightning speed. Even though he wanted to borrow Fong Qingshan and Yang Mei's strength, he didn't want them to taste the fruit of victory. This was like asking a horse to run and not give it grass to eat. especially when this horse had a grudge against him. Originally, he was ready to wait for the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors to return to their positions. After humankind and humanism flourished, he would make a move against Fang Qingshan and the others. Sadly, his plans were not as fast as the changes. Whatever, things will eventually sort themselves out. Let's put this aside for now and see what happens next. Hong Jun thought about it and decided to wait before making a decision. Though he felt that Sanqing and the others could not grow in such a short period of time. What if? Hong Jun still had a glimmer of hope. If Sanqing and the others truly grew, then he could rely on them to win. Then he wouldn't need to rely on Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan. That was his perfect plan. The reason why I called you here today is to inform the Marquis of Poison and the others about this competition. Secondly, I want you to prepare and train well, to maximize your chances of winning. This time, Hongjun Tiandao will lift the seal. Whether it's fate or the great path, they will all be open to you. As for how much you can learn, it will be up to you. This was why Hongjun hadn't made up his mind yet. He wanted to wait and see if there would be a ray of hope. Sanqing, Jin, Zhuanti, Niuhua, and even Hutu and Rote didn't know what Hongjun was thinking, but their eyes lit up when they heard this. Putting everything else aside, regardless of whether he could enter the arena or not, this was a real benefit. This was especially true for Zhuanti and the others. Even if they were to participate in the arena battles, they might not necessarily be able to emerge victorious. If they were to fail, not only would they not be able to obtain any benefits, they would also suffer heavy losses. But now, it was a great opportunity. Although it wasn't worth mentioning, when compared to the benefits of winning the dueling ring, he didn't have to pay any price at all, so he didn't have to bear any karma or losses. For Ro, this was a great opportunity to catch up with Hongjun. For Hutu, although she did not have the ambition to catch up with Hongjun, the higher her cultivation, the stronger Wu people's ability to protect themselves. For Laozi, this was a great opportunity to break through to the mid-stage primordial chaos. For Primordial Lord and Tong Tian, this was a great opportunity to catch up with Laozi and break through to the peak of the early stage primordial chaos. As for Jin, Zhuanti, and Niuhua felt a sense of urgency. This was because they knew that they were at the bottom of the sages. It would be fine if they didn't invite Fang Qingshan and the others, but if they did, the 3 of them could only choose one person. As for the final result, it would depend on the final result of this cultivation. After leaving the Purple Cloud Palace, no one had any other thoughts. They went straight back to their respective homes and went into seclusion. Even Heavenly Venerate Yuanshi couldn't care less about Guang Chengzi and Xian Yuan. After all, Guang Chengzi and Xuanyuan's matter was just a bargaining chip for him to seize the light from Providence and improve his cultivation. Compared to strengthening the destiny of Chan School through Guang Chengzi and Xian Yuan, and thus improving his cultivation, it was obvious that this opportunity was much better. It was even rarer than when the Purple Cloud Palace gave a lecture back then. If he missed this opportunity, he did not know if there would be another one like this next time. As for Hutu, although she was also anxious to return to the tunnel for seclusion, she still used the voice transmission technique to inform Fang Qingshan of everything that had happened in the Purple Cloud Palace. I didn't expect that there would be people from the outer domain here before we left the desolation. What a pleasant surprise. After receiving the news from Hutu, Fang Qingshan was shocked at first and then overjoyed. Fang Qingshan had originally planned to leave the chaos with Yang Mei after arranging the matter of the Black Tortoise. Firstly, it was the desolation. Although there were countless opportunities in the chaos, there were many things that they simply didn't know how to use. For example, in the desolation, the ginseng fruit was completely useless after reaching the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal level and could only be used to satisfy the desire for food. However, in the myriad heavens and realms, the divine poison marquis and the others could use it as a raw material, supplemented by other spiritual roots and spiritual herbs to refine panaceas. Even Sage to Be and Origin Immortals might be able to use it, let alone the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal level. Moreover, if they didn't leave the desolation, Hong Jun would attack them. Although they weren't afraid, it was completely unnecessary, and the loss outweighed the gain. However, it was not easy to leave the chaos and travel the myriad heavens and realms. In particular, the Pangu Chaos world was new and far away from the center of the myriad heavens and realms. Otherwise, the divine Poison Marquis and the others wouldn't have discovered it by accident. Although this protected the chaos, at the same time, it made it more difficult for the creatures in the chaos to travel the boundless void. Although Fang Qingshan wasn't completely ignorant about the myriad heavens and the boundless void, he didn't know much either. His current strength was not bad. He was at the mid-stage primordial chaos realm and was about to break through to the late-stage primordial chaos realm. With the help of the Timeless Arc, he wasn't afraid of 9th-stage primordial chaos realm experts or even peak primordial chaos realm experts. In the desolation, even Hong Jun was extremely afraid of him. But to be honest, his bit of strength was not worth mentioning at all when placed in the boundless void. Anyone who could travel the myriad heavens and realms had the strength of a primordial chaos realm expert. Primordial chaos realm experts were everywhere, and those below the primordial chaos realm were like dogs. Furthermore, the myriad heavens and realms were so big and filled with countless opportunities. Anyone who could cultivate to the primordial chaos realm would be blessed by providence and would have a few trump cards. Although the Timeless Arc was not bad, there were still people who could compare to or even surpass it. Therefore, although he and Yang Mei were brave and diligent when it came to traveling the myriad heavens and realms, they had no choice but to tread on thin ice. After all, the myriad heavens and realms were not like the desolation. There, any expert could make them flee and even threaten their lives. Now, if they could learn more about the boundless void from the divine Poison Marquis and the others, they wouldn't be like headless flies without a clue. They would be able to understand the situation better and find their own fortunes. For example, they could join a great power or go to a treasure land to find fortunes. Most importantly, they would be able to avoid danger, avoid some dangerous places, or provoke some giants, and so on. Chapter 1198. Other than learning the basic situation of the boundless void from the Poison Marquis and the others, there was one more important thing. That was the route. Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei's original plan was to use the Timeless Arc to leave the primordial chaos and head in a certain direction. There was bound to be a place where they could see people. As long as they could find a group of people, be it through trade or coercion, they would be able to get some basic information. However, there was also the possibility that they would fail miserably, meet someone they could not afford to offend, or be robbed by void bandits. With the Timeless Arc's unparalleled speed, it was hard to estimate how long it would take to find the next primordial chaos world, especially without a specific route. After all, not to mention the boundless void, even in the ocean, if one did not have a sea route map and coordinates, one might not even know where to go. As for the All-Heaven chessboard, that was fine. The All-Heaven chessboard was Fang Qingshan's most important treasure. Although he did not use it much now, it did not mean that he had given up on it. It was still a treasure comparable to the Timeless Arkansas. As Fang Qingshan's cultivation increased, as Mosquito Daoran and the Tree of World reached Dao, Fang Qingshan's providence was so thick that even Sanqing and the others, who had inherited Pangu's legacy, could not compare to him. With providence, the All-Heaven chessboard naturally improved. Now, the All-Heaven chessboard was like the Red Lotus of Fire. Although it had not become a Chaos Spirit treasure, it had reached the limit of a Khanate Cardinal treasure. In terms of attack power, even the Death Scythe and the Horn of Chaos could not compare. In terms of defense, it was better than the Great Void Armor and comparable to the 24-tier Red Lotus of Fire. Most importantly, the All-Heaven chessboard's most basic and important function was to travel between the heavens. In the past, the All-Heavens chessboard could only be used within its own Chaos world. Now, however, it could be used to travel between Chaos worlds. It was equivalent to a Chaos world teleportation array. Putting all this aside, if Fang Qingshan did not raise his eyebrows and was alone, there was naturally nothing much to say. Once the myriad heavens chessboard moved, he would be able to head to the next chaotic world, just like in the past when he went to the world of God conferment and the journey to the west. But with the raised eyebrows, things were completely different. A man's wealth is his own ruin. On the surface, the all-heaven chessboard looked like a connate cardinal treasure. In the past, the teleportation array could only be used to travel between the same chaos world. Now, however, it could travel between two chaos worlds. It was even more convenient than a chaos-level teleportation array. After all, the teleportation formation couldn't be moved and had to be prepared. As long as the all-heaven chessboard had enough providence and wasn't sealed in time and space, it could be used at any time. Once such a thing was exposed, let alone primordial chaos experts, even immortal realm experts would not be able to restrain themselves and come snatch it. Even if Yang Mei behaved well now, didn't have greed in his heart, and helped him a lot, it was difficult to draw a tiger or draw a dragon. One could know a person's face, but not his heart. Who knew if he would have any crooked thoughts after knowing that he had the all-heaven chessboard in his hands? After all, this treasure was not only used for attack, defense, and all-round development. The most important thing was that it could be used as a life-saving trump card. As long as there was no special means, with this treasure, he could even escape from the hands of an immortal realm expert. In the past, when he was in the immortal world, Fang Qingshan could escape easily even though the gap between him and the people of Hongjun Tiandao was so big. The most important thing was that this treasure could continue to evolve. As long as there was enough providence, the Chaos Spirit treasure was not his limit. It was even possible that one day, like the Timeless Ark, it could be promoted to an eternal artifact and reach the level of the Everlasting Lotus. And even if Yang Mei had a noble heart, one person knew it was a secret. If two people knew it, the chance of exposure would greatly increase. In case he accidentally spilled the beans, or for other reasons, the news would be leaked. At that time, he would become a rat on the street, living in fear. Therefore, the all-heaven chessboard could not be exposed. This was his life-saving trump card. Not to mention, it was better to have fun together than to have fun alone. When Huta knew the news, he knew to inform his ally. How could Fang Qingshan forget his ally, Yang Mei? He immediately used the method of sound transmission to copy the news to Yang Mei, who was in seclusion in the East China Sea. So that's how it is. God is helping me. Because of the eternal blessing given by Fang Qingshan last time, Yang Mei had an eternal aura. Therefore, while recovering from his injuries, he had been comprehending that aura all these years. Now it could be said that he had gained a little bit. Hongjun had caused such a big commotion, and Yang Mei was not in seclusion, so it would be hard not to know. Just like Fang Qingshan, he had been guessing what Hongjun was up to this time, and whether they were going to attack them. When Fang Qingshan's news came, Yang Mei suddenly understood and was ecstatic. Originally, he could already save a lot of time with Fang Qingshan's timeless arc when traveling through the infinite void. His safety was also guaranteed. However, he was still like a headless fly, scurrying everywhere. Now, if he could get information from the Poison Marquis and the others, his safety would soar and his future plans would be clearer. In particular, the Poison Marquis and the others were only at the mid-stage primordial chaos realm, but they had been able to come to this chaotic world. If he could figure it out, whether it was a teleportation array, a flying boat, or some other method, they would be able to leave this world more easily and safely. After hearing this good news, how could Yang Mei sit still? With a thought, he immediately executed the space major transference and arrived in the Blood Sea. He looked for Fang Qingshan to discuss countermeasures. Greetings, Taoist Fang Qingshan. Greetings, Taoist Yang Mei. The two of them exchanged greetings for a while before they eagerly started discussing how to make use of this opportunity. If possible, given our strength, it should not be difficult for us to directly take action against the Poison God Marquis and the others. However, since Hongjun has not taken action, it is clear that he is afraid of something. This path is not feasible. That's right. The other option is to directly trade. However, that would be a bit too much. we might suffer a great loss in the process of trading. Moreover, they will not be interested in ordinary items, but we can't bear to trade good items. Therefore, there is only one way left, and that is to participate in this arena battle. The problem now is how to get Hong Jun to agree to let us join. Understand them with emotion, move them with reason, and coerce them with carrots. After discussing for a while, Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan felt that there was no time to lose. They immediately left the Blood Sea and flew towards the Purple Cloud Palace. There were many things to discuss. If Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei wanted to find out information from the Poison Marquis and the others, they could not avoid Hong Jun no matter what. However, Hong Jun was not a pushover. There was still room for negotiation. Chapter 1199. Putting aside the fact that Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei had put aside their prejudices and come to Hong Jun for the sake of the fortuitous opportunity from the outer realm, Chun Fan had already come to Hong Jun to discuss the matter. As for whether they would try to persuade him with emotion, move him with reason, or finally coerce him with carrots and bribes, and end up dying together, that would depend on the outcome of the negotiations. At this moment, the Battle of Zhuelu had reached its final stage. However, the entire Deer Chaser battlefield was completely enveloped by the Great Divine Fiend formation. The 12 Yuan Chun, the Xian Yuan, the 12 Golden Immortals of the Chan sect, the 99 Mystical Een formation, and the 10,000 Golden Lantern formation had all disappeared. The only thing that could be seen was the surging murderous aura. As for the onlookers, except for those who had treasures to protect themselves, those who were at the peak of the Saves-to-Be peak had already retracted their primordial spirits. They had no choice but to take it back, because they could not see the situation inside the formation at all. Moreover, if they were not careful, they might be affected by the formation and hurt their foundations. The gains did not make up for the losses. If one looked through the formation, one would be able to see an indomitable giant holding a divine axe, fighting a sword-wielding dragon in a life-and-death battle. The great formation of divine fiends was indeed worthy of being called the Great Formation of Divine Fiends. Even though it was only set up by the 12 Divine Fiends banners, even though it was cast by Chiyu, even though the 12 Primal Star formation was also a top-notch formation, and was even supported by the will of humanity, it was still suppressed by Pan Gu's true body. The situation was dire. Fortunately, Xin Yuan saw that the situation was not right. He quickly threw the Emperor's sword in his hand, the witch-slaying sword, which was the greatest nemesis of the Wu people, to the dragon. The Hour Dragon had evolved from the River of Time and was not weak. Coupled with the Wu-slaying sword, Pan Gu's true body was wary of it, which was why he had managed to hold on. After all, in the Great Sorcerer and Demon formation, Di Juntai had taken advantage of the fact that the 12 Zuwu were unprepared and used this treasure to stab Pan Gu's real body, breaking the Great Divine Fiend formation. As a result, the Wu people had failed on the verge of success, and several Zhu Wu had died in the hands of this sword. You had to be careful. You have Zhang Liang's stratagem. I have a ladder to climb over the wall. However, Chiyu is not without a backup plan. Of course, this backup plan was not prepared by Wu people. Instead, as the teacher of the human sovereign, the Azura sovereign Wen Tian had prepared it for Chiyu before he left the deer-chasing battlefield. The Shura sovereign had left Juli City, just like the other great sorcerers, in order to pursue the heavenly road. However, that was only because Duo Bao and the others had left. Without the fairy-slaying sword formation, with Chiyo's strength and the power of the Great Divine Fiend formation, the final victory was in the bag. This was also the reason why Xing Tian and the others could leave with peace of mind. However, the Shura sovereign had followed Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Daoren in his cultivation. Even if he hadn't learned anything else, he had learned to be cautious or to be prepared for defeat before victory. Even though he felt that Chiyu's ascension to the throne was almost certain, it was better to be safe than sorry. Therefore, he left a trump card for Chiyu. It was a defensive treasure, the 8 trigrams tortoise diagram. The so-called 8 trigrams black tortoise diagram was none other than the tortoise shell left behind by the sky-supporting black tortoise. If the limbs of the sky-supporting black tortoise could be used to support the sky, how could the shell with the strongest defense be simple? One had to know that mosquito Dowrin didn't even have time to devour the shell of the goddess of turtle spirit. Later, Fong Qingshan integrated it into the timeless ark, which greatly enhanced the defense of the timeless Arkansas. Not to mention the shell of the sky-supporting black tortoise. Anyone would know that the shell of the sky-supporting black tortoise was extraordinary. If it hadn't been for Hong Jun Tiandao's help with Tong Tian's strength, even the fairy's slaying sword formation wouldn't have been able to break his defense so easily. However, after Tong Tian killed the black tortoise and took its limbs, he seemed to turn a blind eye to the shell. Even the most greedy Junti seemed to have forgotten about this treasure. In fact, it wasn't that they didn't want this treasure, but the karma of this treasure was too great. After all, they were directly and indirectly the culprits who killed the black tortoise. It was fine that the limbs were used to support the sky, but they also wanted to take away the shell. Did they really think that the karma of the black tortoise was so easy to accept? If it were so easy, the Shura sovereign and Chiyu would not have had the chance to purify the North Continent. Therefore, everyone could only watch and drool. They didn't dare to act rashly. Later, Fong Qingshan and Hutu suppressed the obsession of the black tortoise, and the Shura sovereign and Chiyu purified the North Continent. The black tortoise became Fong Qingshan's disciple, so the shell naturally fell into Fong Qingshan's hands. If it were someone else, even if it were Tong Tian or Primordial, they would have taken advantage of the situation and used it for their own. However, Fong Qingshan had countless treasures. Although this treasure was good, it was his disciples after all. He couldn't take it for himself. Moreover, he had given the Shura sovereign a 13th grade pure white lotus, so he naturally wouldn't favor one over the other. Therefore, Fong Qingshan used the black tortoise's shell as material and reforged it with the cauldron of heaven and earth. He performed the function of reversing the connate nature, added many precious materials, and performed a great mystical ability to refine the 8 trigrams black tortoise diagram. Not only did it retain the powerful defensive power of the turtle shell, but it also retained a natural 8 trigrams array patterns on the turtle shell. In the future, it would be the best choice for setting up arrays or deductions, just like the Book of Luo River diagram. Moreover, because of its grade, it was even better than the Book of Luo River diagram. Of course, this treasure was naturally left for the reincarnated black tortoise. However, before that, he could still borrow it. All connate spiritual treasures contain the heavenly Tao runes, Tao marks, and Tao laws. After refining it, it could improve one's understanding of the Tao. Because Fong Qingshan used the cauldron of heaven and earth to perform the function of reversing the connate nature, the 8 trigrams black tortoise diagram was not an acquired treasure of virtue, but a connate treasure of virtue. Naturally, it also had the same effect. The Shura sovereign was excited to see the prey. He also wanted to improve his understanding of the Tao, so he lent the treasure out. Later, when the path of heaven opened, the Shura sovereign originally wanted to leave his own connate treasure, the pure white lotus, to Chiyu. However, because he heard from the boy that the path of heaven not only tested one's essence, chi, and spirit, but also cultivation methods, spiritual treasures, and so on, he had an idea and left the pure white lotus with Chiyu, but left the 8 trigrams black tortoise diagram. With this treasure, Chiyu is naturally not afraid of Xian Yuan, or rather, the Wu-slaying sword in the hands of the Hour Dragon. That was why he was still locked in battle with the Hour Dragon. He had met his match and met a talented general. It was only because Chiyu was looking for an opportunity to deal a fatal blow. The Hour Dragon's power was extraordinary, and it had the blessing of the human Tao. It also had the nemesis of the Wu people, the Wu-slaying sword. Once they were on guard, it would be troublesome to take them down in a short period of time. Normally, this wouldn't be a problem. But right now, the path of heaven was right before his eyes. If he misses it because of delay, it would be too late for Chiyu to regret. Therefore, on one hand, he was wearing down the Hour Dragon's power. On the other hand, he was showing weakness to his enemies. He was also looking for a good opportunity to end the battle with one strike. Chapter 1200. Xin Yuan and the others naturally didn't know that Shi Yu had pretended to be weak and was looking for a good opportunity to win the battle. When they saw the Hour Dragon holding the Wu-slaying sword, Pan Gu's real body was restrained. Although he still had the upper hand, he gave the Hour Dragon a chance to breathe, and the balance of victory was slowly tilting towards them. For a moment, they were very excited. As for whether there was anything fishy going on, they naturally didn't think so. After all, Chi Yu's performance was very normal. Although the great formation of divine beings killing was not bad, it was a weakened version, and Chi Yu was the only one who set it up. The great formation of 12 stars was not to be trifled with. It summoned the river of time, and it was supported by humanity. It also held the bane of the Wu people, the Wu-slaying sword. It was only natural for such a situation to occur. Unfortunately, they overestimated themselves and underestimated Chi Yu. Chi Yu was different from the other Wu people. He was not a barbarian. He had a primordial spirit, and he knew how to scheme. Even the other Wu people were not careless. They just believed that strength was the hard truth, and they didn't need to use their brains to solve problems that could be solved with force. Putting all these aside, the Hour Dragon gradually turned the situation around with the Wu-killing sword in his hand. This immediately made Guang Chengzi and the others' eyes light up. At the same time, they slapped their foreheads. How could they forget that the real body of Pangu had the heaven-splitting axe? How could the Hour Dragon not be at a disadvantage when he was barehanded? Fortunately, it was not too late to make up for it. Didn't they see that the Hour Dragon was gradually turning the situation around with the Wu-slaying sword? To strengthen their advantage and fight for a higher chance of winning, Guang Chengzi also threw the Pan Gu banner in his hand, and it landed in the Hour Dragon's hand. Good fella, with the Wu-slaying sword in one hand and the Pan Gu banner in the other. They were both offensive weapons, and he was armed to the teeth. Although the real Pan Gu's defense was strong, they didn't dare to let their guard down. After all, the Pan Gu banner was known as the best offensive weapon, and the Wu-slaying sword could break the real Wu people's bodies. Chi Yu clearly had the upper hand, but the more he fought, the more frustrated he became. He could only use the heaven-splitting axe in one hand and the Dutian thunder in the other. At the same time, he had to be careful of the Wu-slaying sword's attack. As such, it had originally been Pan Gu's true body suppressing the Hour Dragon. But now, the situation had changed. It wasn't that Pan Gu's true body was being chased by the Hour Dragon, but it had become a stalemate. Seeing this, the eyes of Xin Yuan, Guang Chengzi, and the others lit up, as if they could see the dawn of victory. They took out the Kuei drum and struck it 9 times in a row to boost their morale. It was no wonder that they were so confident. Indeed, the current situation was very good. More importantly, they had the human Dao fate behind them, while the great formation of heavenly fiends completely relied on Chi Yu and the great formation of heavenly fiends. As time went on, they would be exhausted to death. As expected, things were developing as Xin Yuan and the others had expected. As the Hour Dragon recovered, as time went on, Pan Gu's true body consumed a lot of energy. In the battle, Pan Gu's true body was completely suppressed. It was better to pursue a cornered enemy bravely than to seek fame as an overlord. Seeing that the Panga true body had fallen into a disadvantageous position, the Hour Dragon naturally intended to completely annihilate it in one go, so as to avoid any unexpected events from occurring. If it allowed the Pangu true body to turn the situation around, then it would be terrible. Therefore, at this moment, the Hour Dragon formed by the 12 Yuanshan didn't care about its consumption at all. It went all out, and its combat power was off the charts. The Wu-slaying sword Qi and the sword Qi of mixed Yuan shot out without any regard for their lives, covering the sky and covering the earth. Just one of these sword Qi was enough to heavily injure an ordinary demi-saint, let alone so many and so densely packed. Although Pangu's true body tried its best to dodge and displayed its powerful defense, it couldn't be maintained for long. If he defended for a long time, he would definitely lose. As time went on, Countless hideous wounds appeared on his body. They were densely packed. It was extremely terrifying. Because of the Wu-slaying sword and the exhaustion, Pan Gu's true body was already at a disadvantage. Now, he was injured again. Although it wasn't fatal, in a fight between experts, every weakness would be magnified. At some point, Pan Gu's true body seemed to have reached its limit and tried its best to dodge the Wu-slaying sword's attack. He stumbled and almost fell to the ground. At the same time, the demonic aura around him fluctuated and seemed to have thinned out. Kill him while he's down. Seeing this, the Hour Dragon knew to strike while the iron was hot. Without much time to think, it mustered all its remaining strength and even burned its chi and blood to unleash its strongest attack in history. The Wu-slaying sword and Pan Gu's banner swung at the same time and landed on Pan Gu's true body. At this moment, they seemed to see the light of victory. Their lips curled into a smile. That was the great divine fiend formation. What a great reputation. It had the power to slaughter saints, but today, it was defeated by their hands. Not to mention other things, just this reputation alone was enough to make them feel like they were drinking old wine. Fame, this was a temptation that even saints couldn't resist. Unfortunately, while they were laughing, so was Chi-Yu. Pan Gu's true body smiled as well. What? Seeing this, the Hour Dragon's body trembled and its heart trembled. An ominous feeling suddenly welled up in its heart. But now, the arrow was knocked and had to be released. They had no time to think about anything else. They could only suppress the ominous feeling in their hearts and use all their strength to give Pan Gu's true body a fatal blow. As long as they destroyed Pan Gu's true body, no matter what trump card Chi-Yu had, it would be completely useless. Unfortunately, things didn't go as they wished. Dong! A resonant sound rang through the entire battlefield. It even spread out of Zhulu and reverberated throughout heaven and earth. An 8 trigrams diagram instantly unfolded in front of Pan Gu's true body, wrapping around him. Countless mysterious patterns flowed and gave off endless light like crystal glass. It was like countless turtle shells were changing. Heaven, earth, wind, thunder, water, fire, mountain, and swamp. Heaven, earth, wind, thunder, water, fire, mountain, and swamp all appeared. The 8 trigrams evolve into the 5 elements. The 5 elements return to yin and yang. Yin and yang evolved into yin and yang, and yin and yang merged into Tai Chi, the 8 trigrams diagram of the black tortoise. Connate merit treasure. In terms of defense, it was slightly inferior to the black and yellow exquisite pagoda and the Tai Chi diagram, but it was even better than the flags of 5 elements and the cauldron of heaven and earth. Although the Wu-slaying sword and Pan Gu's banner were powerful, the 8 trigrams diagram was not easy to deal with either. It firmly kept them out. It constantly diverted the power in all directions. Although there were still aftershocks that passed through, the defense of Pan Gu's true body was not inferior to that of an ordinary Connate treasure. Even though the Wu-slaying sword was his nemesis and hideous cracks appeared on it, it was not fatal. It did not affect the overall situation at all. Hey! A ferocious smile appeared on the face of Pan Gu's true body. He had waited so long for this moment that the flowers were about to wither. In order to trick the Hour Dragon, Chi-Yu had planned this carefully from the beginning. He advanced step by step, showing weakness to the enemy, and lured him into the abyss of death step by step. Chapter 1201. Seeing the 8 trigrams black tortoise diagram in front of Pan Gu's true body, the Hour Dragon finally understood what was going on. He hadn't expected that the Wu people, who had always been known for their brute force, would actually be so cunning. Indeed, he wasn't afraid of the Wu people's fists, but he was afraid of the Wu people's brains. It was too deceiving. Unfortunately, he realized it too late. He had wanted to finish the battle in one go with his previous burst of power, but he didn't expect to fall into a dead end. Now that the old force had just been used up, and the new force had yet to be generated, the Hour Dragon was horrified. He wanted to withdraw the Wu-slaying sword and Pan Gu's banner and retreat, but it was too late. He could only watch as Pan Gu's true body's attack landed. Chop, chop, chop. Pan Gu's true body shouted chop 3 times in a row, and the Pan Gu axe in his hand chopped down without holding back. Just like how the Hour Dragon had wanted to settle the battle in one go, he had used his full strength. At this moment, Pan Gu's true body was also repeating the same action, burning his magic power, chi, and blood, and gathering his remaining strength. He was invincible. In the blink of an eye, a ray of resplendent blood-red light suddenly appeared from the horizon. It was like the first ray of light before dawn, like the first ray of light that tore through the darkness and emitted a resplendent splendor. Almost in the instant that it was chopped out, it arrived in front of the Hour Dragon. The giant axe emitted a boundless and terrifying murderous aura, and there was a blood-red light rising. Within the blood-red light, countless demonic shadows let out terrifying demonic sounds. It was the fear of death, the unwillingness to accept the outcome, and the howls of hatred for Pan Gu. These were the phenomena formed when the 3,000 chaos demon gods were killed by Pan Gu back then. Just like the 9 forms of splitting the heavens, it would only appear when used to the extreme. The thick smell of blood instantly made one feel like they were in a vast sea of blood, and it could scare them to death and turn them into a bloody mist. The Hour Dragon was shocked, and his face was filled with shock. Although he had faced the 9 forms of splitting the heavens before, that was because Chi Yu had gone easy on him. But now, not only did he not hold back, he even went all out. Naturally, he could not be mentioned in the same breath as before. Without facing Pan Gu's heaven-splitting axe, one simply wouldn't know how terrifying that kind of pressure, that kind of fear that bordered on despair was. One must know that even now, Yang Mei still had a shadow in his heart. There was no need to even mention the Hour Dragon. Although this axe was not unleashed by Pan Gu, it was still not comparable to the Time Demon God. A fatal threat, an endless fear assaulted him like an endless darkness. River of Time. There was no time to think. Almost instinctively, the Time Colossal Dragon transformed back into the River of Time. Surging time laws, stop, reverse, accelerate, erupted at the same time, trying to stop it. Unfortunately, it was too late. Or rather, it was not that it was too late, but that its defense was not strong enough. After all, this was not the real River of Time. It was just a phantom of a tributary of the River of Time, summoned by the 12 Yuan-shun with the help of the formation. And the real body of Pan Gu's axe had half of the power displayed by the 12 Zhu-Wu. For this moment, Qi had been enduring the humiliation since Xian Yuan took out the Wu-slaying sword. How could he give him a chance to turn the tables? Whoosh! The axe flashed, and the River of Time was directly split in half on the spot. Wah! The River of Time was broken, and with a slight flash, it disappeared. The 12 Yuan-shun formation naturally broke on its own, and the 12 Yuan-shun fell out. Each of their faces was pale, and they looked not far from death. Their cultivation had also almost fallen from the original half-step Grand Luo to the Golden Immortal. Fortunately, they were different from others. After all, the 12 Yuan-shun were the guardian beasts of the human Tao. As long as the human Tao was not destroyed, they would not die, just like the 5 sacred beasts and the saints of heaven and earth. Otherwise, if it had been someone else, not to mention being seriously injured, they would probably have died on the spot. After all, Pan Gu's axe, the sky-splitting form, was not so easy to receive. Whoosh! When the chi of the human race was stripped from the 12 Yuan-shun, it took all 12 of them away. Seeing this, Qi Yu's eyes flashed, but he did not continue to attack. It was not that he had a noble character and knew to return good for evil. But after all, he was still someone who wanted to become the human emperor, so he cannot go too far. Otherwise, not to mention whether he could kill the 12 Yuan-shun and anger the source will of the human Tao, he was afraid that he would really be drawing water with a wicker basket, and his good cards would be played to pieces. However, he had let the 12 Yuan-shun go, but he did not intend to let Xian Yuan and the others go. After all, Xian Yuan was his sworn enemy, and Guang Chengzi and the others were his accomplices. However, the eyes of the real Pan Gu turned cold. He waved the Pangu axe in his hand and slashed at Xian Yuan and the 12 golden immortals without hesitation. "Master, save us!" At the sight of this scene, Guang Chengzi and the others, who were still in disbelief over the death of the Hour Dragon, were instantly frightened out of their wits. They let out a miserable shriek, which was heart-wrenching and tearful. "Damn it, kill!" Kunlun Mountain. After the primeval lord of the origin returned to the desolation, he did not pay attention to Xian Yuan, Guang Chengzi, and the others. He did not want to waste the opportunity, so he could not wait to travel the universe and comprehend the Great Path. However, this did not mean that he did not care about the life and death of Guang Chengzi and the others. Therefore, when Guang Chengzi and the others were in a life-threatening crisis, he was still the first to sense it. He saw that Qi Yu wanted to kill Guang Chengzi and the others in one fell swoop. The primeval lord of the origin was furious. One should know that Guang Chengzi and the others were his successors. Killing Guang Chengzi and the others was equivalent to destroying his orthodoxy. Back then, Yin Xiao had only eliminated the 3 flowers above the head and the 5 qi in the chest of Guang Chengzi and the others, and he could not sit still and personally took action to bully the weak. Not to mention that Qi Yu wanted to kill them all in one fell swoop. Moreover, he had to look at his master before beating a dog. Qi Yu was openly looking down on him. Almost instantly, the Pangu banner that had been knocked away by Pangu's axe suddenly exploded. On the body of the banner, the heaven god's baleful qi burst out. It seemed to destroy the chaos and reopen the world. On the surface of the banner, there was a supreme picture of the great god Pangu holding the heavens-splitting divine axe to split the world. The 5-colored light shone on the sky, and the saintly power of Pangu shocked the universe. Primeval lord of the origin, how dare you? The lives of Guang Chengzi and the others were in danger, and the primeval lord of the origin sensed it. Since Qi Yu was in trouble, how could Huda not feel it? Seeing that the primeval lord of the origin dared to bully the weak and attack Qi Yu without caring about the dignity of a saint, Hutu was also furious. His heart moved, and the 12 heaven gods' baleful banners exploded at the same time. Boundless baleful qi was added to the real body of Pangu. For a moment, the real body of Pangu seemed to be injected with chicken blood. His body, which had been empty because of Qi Yu's all-out outburst, suddenly became full, and his strength increased by more than 10 times. The Pangu axe in his hand almost subconsciously slashed over, colliding with the Pangu banner. The primeval lord of the origin could control the Pangu banner remotely, and Hutu could naturally control the heaven god killing formation remotely. Crack! The fight between Hutu and the primeval lord of the origin instantly caused countless elements to tumble and the void space to shatter. Chapter 1202. Pangu's axe not only shattered the sword chi of mixed essence shot out by the Pangu's banner, but also fell on the Pangu's banner like a torrential rain, knocking the Pangu's banner away and even hurting the primordial spirit imprint of the primordial lord of origin inside. The honored lord of the origin couldn't help but hate Qi Yu. At the same time, he also knew that he couldn't go against Qi Yu. He stopped attacking Qi Yu and immediately wrapped the 12 golden immortals and Xian Yuan with the Pangu banner and instantly flew away. Seeing this, Huda didn't show any mercy. Although she was stronger than the primordial lord of heaven, she was not here in her true form. Plus, it was not worth it to fight to the death over such a small matter. Even if she wanted to take advantage of the situation, she had to see if the others would allow it. Most importantly, it was not the right time. Hongjun Tiandao had opened up its fate in Dao. This was the best time to gain enlightenment. The world was big, but cultivation was the most important. Given the primordial lord of heaven's arrogance and the importance he placed on his face, it was possible that he had retreated so easily because of this. Therefore, after Ho Tu told Qi Yu to be careful, she also couldn't wait to withdraw her thoughts and immerse herself in the comprehension of the Great Way again. Let's not talk about that. Qi Yu had defeated Xian Yuan, so it was only natural that he became the human emperor. After Xian Yuan and the son of Shen Nong were defeated, no one in the human race could resist his rule. There were 3 emperors in heaven, earth, and man, each with their own duties. Heavenly monarch Fuxi's greatest achievement was the evolution of the innate 8 trigrams, allowing the humans to avoid harm and seek benefits. The greatest achievement of the Earth Emperor, Shen Nong, was to taste all kinds of herbs, which freed the human race from the suffering of diseases and allowed them to plant rice, transforming them from nomadic hunter-gatherers to an agricultural era. On the other hand, Xian Yuan, no, Qi Yu, or the last human sovereign, was tasked to unify the human race. In other words, as long as he unified the human clan, his task would be considered complete. He would not have to be like the other human sovereigns who had painstakingly governed the human clan for decades. If there were no other unforeseen events, then so be it. But the Heavens Road's opportunity was right in front of him. How could Qi Yu let go? Therefore, after defeating Xian Yuan, Qi Yu couldn't wait to send his 80 brothers to attack separately to clear out the remaining resistance forces, while he himself prepared for the abdication ceremony of the human king in the Zhuli tribe. As for the next human emperor, it was none other than Xuanyuan's grandson, Zhuanxu. Zhuanxu, the son of Chang Yi, born in water, living in Xiusong. His birth was the same as the other Renhuangs. Their origins were extraordinary, and they were destined to be Renhuangs. His mother's name was Nashu. 20 years ago, on the night of the Big Dipper's radiance, starlight shone brightly and fell into her belly. She became pregnant and gave birth to Zhuanxu. He was conferred the title of Gaoyong, and thus became known as the Gaoyong family. After so many twists and turns, the throne of the human sovereign finally returned to the Xian Yuan family. Qi was very unwilling to accept this. Originally, Qi Yu wanted to pass the throne to one of his 80 brothers, and not to the grandson of his old rival, the Gaoyong family. Unfortunately, as soon as this thought arose, it was extinguished by the will of the mortal Tao. Firstly, these people didn't know how to govern the human race at all. Most importantly, their virtues didn't match the position. They had no fate, no background, no backing, and no ability. How could such people become the human sovereign? More importantly, just like Qi Yu, they were all loyal to the sorcerer tribe. It was fine if there was only one Qi Yu, but if there were to be 2 or more of them, the Tao would not only be controlled by the sages, it might even be replaced by the sorcerer Tao. This was something that the will of the mortal Tao couldn't tolerate. Fortunately, now that Qi Yu had returned to the throne, the Wu people's goal was achieved, and there were opportunities from the outer regions. Hutta didn't care about the fate of the human race. Therefore, she was no longer obsessed with fighting for the throne. In order to return to the throne as soon as possible, apart from the Gaoyong family, Qi Yu searched the entire human race, but couldn't find a suitable candidate. Qi Yu could only pinch his nose and accept it. He had no choice but to pass the throne to the Gaoyong family. Moreover, the will of the mortal Tao also promised that if Qi Yu didn't cause trouble and pass the throne to the Gaoyong family, the mortal Tao wouldn't deduct his merits and fate. One should know that in order to unify the human race, Qi Yu had fought and killed. Although there was a reason for it, karma was still unavoidable. Moreover, in order to defeat Xian Yuan, he almost killed the 12 Yuan Shun, who were the guardian beasts of the mortal Tao. In fact, it wasn't just Qi Yu. In the original trajectory, wasn't Xian Yuan the same? In the end, in order to complete the merit, he had to do the deed of yin and yang. As the teacher of the human sovereign, not only did Guang Chengzi not get many benefits, but he also got into trouble. As a result, he suffered in the Great War of the Gods' Investiture. Yin Xiao used the Yellow River of Nine Bends Formation and the Golden Dipper to cut off his 3 flowers and the 5 qi in his chest. Let's not talk about this. Compared to the abdication ceremony of the first 2 human sovereigns, where all the gods and Buddhas and saints came to celebrate, the situation of Qi Yu's return was extremely shabby. Firstly, the Wu people weren't very popular. If they hadn't formed an alliance with the Blood Sea, they would have been surrounded by enemies. Secondly, All the experts were attracted by the opportunity on the heavenly road. Who would give up the opportunity just to watch the ceremony? Therefore, after Chiyo's return, the three ancestors of the human race, the two sovereigns of heaven and earth, the saints, the Wu people, and the blood sea didn't have a place. Chiyo didn't care about this at all. All he wanted now was to end it as soon as possible, obtain the human sovereign's merits and fate, and then fight for the opportunity on the heavenly road. Everything was simple. I am Chiyo of the human race. Today, I feel that my merit has been fulfilled. I hereby officially pass the throne of the human race to the Gaoyang family. After Chiyo finished speaking, the crowd started to chant the names of Chiyo and Gaoyang in unison. At the same time, Hongjun Tiandao sensed it and bestowed boundless merits. This amount of merits was not inferior to Fuxi and Shinnong's. After all, it was more difficult for Chiyo to become a human sovereign than Fuxi and Shinnong. Chiyo himself had the cultivation of a Daluo golden celestial. With the support of this merit, his cultivation level started to soar. He became a sage-to-be in one step and regained the cultivation he had in his previous life. At the same time, the merit that was sealed in Chiyo's body exploded and merged with the human sovereign's merits, giving him 30% more power. Although Chiyo had a primordial spirit and cultivated his chi, his foundation was still in his bloodline and the cultivation of his body. Therefore, he used more of his merits to purify his bloodline and improve the cultivation of his body. Although Chiyo became a human sovereign, he was different from Fuxi. He merely used the human race to cultivate witchcraft. Therefore, the first step was to remove the human bloodline. The Wu people's bloodline was purified and instantly became the blood of a grand magus. Then, under the refinement of the merits, the blood of a grand magus instantly became the blood of a Zhu Wu. After it became the blood of a Zhu Wu, the speed of improvement slowed down, but it was still purified in an orderly manner. At this moment, Chiyo placed more of his attention on improving his physical cultivation. Chapter 1203. The Xianmen had the 9 transformations technique, the Buddhists had the 8-9 arcane technique, the Blood Sea had the immortal body of the Blood Sea, the Dragon tribe had the body of the real dragon, and the Wu people naturally had their own secret divine technique, the Pangu real body formula. Chiyo was practicing the real body formula of Pangu, the supreme skill of the Wu people, which used strength to prove the Tao. It was similar to the 9 transformations technique of Xianmen Sanqing, because they were both inherited from Pangu. However, the Pangu true body technique focused more on the physical body, while the 9 transformations technique was also a technique that used strength to prove one's Tao, but it also took into account the primordial spirit. Both cultivation techniques pointed to primordial chaos, and it was hard to say which was better. However, in general, the Pangu true body technique focused on purity, while the 9 transformations essence technique focused on both and had greater potential. After all, he had never heard of anyone who could walk on one leg in the entire universe. Even if one focused on body refinement, chi refinement, or spirit refinement, they still had to take care of the other 2 aspects. Essence, chi, and spirit were the 3 treasures of a human, and not one of them could be missing. That aside, both the Pangu true body scripture and the 9 transformations origin art were divided into 9 levels, corresponding to the earth immortals, heaven immortals, true immortals, mystic immortals, gold immortals, primordial immortals, grand heavenly immortals, demi-saints, and origin immortals. Before Chiyo was reincarnated into a human, he was one of the most powerful shamans under the Wu people Zhu Wu. He had mastered the 7th level of Pangu's real body scripture and was on the verge of breaking through. Later on, when he purified the North Continent, with the help of the karmic luck, he directly broke through to the 8th level of the Pangu true body technique, which was comparable to Zhu Wu. However, since he was going to be reincarnated into the human tribe, he naturally had to abandon his original body. Fortunately, Huti used her great magic power to condense Chiyo's original body into a drop of essence blood. She merged it into Chiyo's primordial spirit and sealed it. Just like luck and virtue, It was reincarnated with Chi-Yu, waiting for this moment to turn into resources and resources for Chi-Yu to improve faster and higher. After breaking through the shackles, this drop of blood essence flowed into his new body like merit and luck. In an instant, Chi-Yu's cultivation rose rapidly. Real body technique, level 7, level 8, peak level 8. It was almost a matter of course. Unfortunately, at the last moment, Chi-Yu's cultivation was still stuck at the peak of Sage to Be, even though he had the foundation of his previous life, the merit of the human sovereign, and the merit of purifying the North Continent. He had to make a breakthrough. It was not easy to become a primordial chaos expert in the primordial chaos. Fang Qingshan had broken through because of the combination of the Khanate 5-direction flags and the primordial purple chi. Mosquito Dowrin had devoured an entire Khanate cardinal treasure, the door of eternal life. As for the World Tree clone, it was not simple either. As for the sky supporting Black Tortoise, it not only had Hongjun Tiandao plotted against it, but it also had the flesh and blood of countless chaos demon gods. Although Chi-Yu was somewhat disappointed that he hadn't broken through to primordial chaos, he wasn't regretful. After all, even though he had hoped for it, he didn't put too much hope in it. Furthermore, even if he didn't make a breakthrough this time, he still had the Heaven's Roads opportunity. Although Chi-Yu hadn't broken through to primordial chaos, his combat power was far beyond that of an ordinary peak sage to be. Even if Fuxi, Shinnong, Xinyuanzi, Kuanpeng, and the others fought against him, they would probably be at a disadvantage. After all, his physical body was at the peak sage to be, and he was from the Wu people. He cultivated the Pangu real body technique. Without a top-notch Khanate spiritual treasure or above, even if Chi-Yu stood still and let others attack him, it was hard to say whether they could break his defense. After breaking through, Chi-Yu said a few words and immediately flew towards Heaven's Road impatiently. Given his current cultivation, he was qualified to fight for one of the top 10 spots on the Heaven's Road's opportunity. The primordial chaos was right in front of him. At this moment, Chi-Yu was very confident. After all, he wasn't weak. In terms of cultivation, providence, and spiritual treasures, he was top-notch in all aspects. For this moment, he didn't hesitate to reincarnate into the human tribe and start from scratch. He would be the second person from the Wu people to break through to primordial chaos after Hodazu Wu. Back at the Heaven's Road, as more and more people began to challenge it, White Tiger had already passed the first stage of tempering his body and entered the second, third, and even fourth stage. Finally, everyone could no longer hold back. For a time, be it Grand Luo or Peak Sage to Be, rising stars, old antiques, rogue cultivators, or powerhouses for major forces, they all rushed forward. Shura's Sovereign was no exception. As for why there were no cultivators below the Grand Luo level, did they not have a gate? Previously, those below the Grand Luo level were immediately ejected, no matter how talented they were. They could only last for a few seconds at most. Therefore, everyone later learned that the Grand Luo level was the gate for those who wanted to challenge it. Although the Grand Luo level was the gate, it was still crowded, as expected of the Desolation Realm. While this was no longer the era of liches and demons, once their foundation was unleashed, golden immortals would still be like dogs, and Grand Luo would be everywhere. When the army charged together, those who didn't know would think that the cataclysm had begun again. It was also fortunate that Hongjun had used the Sumru mustard seed on the Heaven's Road. Otherwise, with the army that came from all directions, it would have been possible for people to trample on each other. However, when tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of people charged at the same time, they were charging forward with an indomitable will and selfless attitude. The momentum was also very shocking and exciting. Shura's Sovereign followed the crowd and stepped onto the Heaven's Road with a thought. All of a sudden, an absolute pressure came crashing down. He and the ground beneath his feet seemed to have turned into magnets of yin and yang, attracting each other as if heaven and earth were about to merge into one. The air around him was as viscous as mercury, filled with a shocking resistance. It pressed down on his body from all directions. from top to bottom, from left to right, from all directions. There was no room for error. Perhaps it was because Shura's sovereign was born in the Blood Sea, or perhaps it was for some other reason, but the pressure he felt was 3 times greater than the others. Naturally, Shura's sovereign didn't know about this. Even if he did, he wouldn't care. After all, he wasn't an ancestor and didn't need to negotiate with Hongjun. Allowing him to join was already giving face to Fong Qingshan and Hongjun. If he continued to complain, he would probably be excluded. Fortunately, although the pressure was 3 times greater, it didn't stop Shura's sovereign from advancing. After all, Shura's sovereign was Mosquito Dorn's creation. He also had the blood essence of the mixed era and cultivated the undying body of the Blood Sea, a peerless technique that could lead him to the immortal realm. Although the pressure was great, it was nothing more than an itch to him. Therefore, after entering the Heaven's Road, Shura's sovereign didn't slow down at all. The higher he went, the greater the pressure, the stronger the pulling force, and the heavier the pressure in the air. But it was nothing more than a minor ailment. Chapter 1204. Due to the rare opportunity on the Heavenly Road and the fact that it concerned the origin immemorial realm, almost everyone in the Desolation of Desolation had gathered here. There were Hongyun, Hao Yin, Yao Qi, Queen Mother of the West, Dragon Mother, Shi Qilin, Wang Shu, White Tiger, the leader of the Black Tortoise clan, the 4 celestial demon emperors under Ro, Lady Mother of the Chariot. These people's situation on the Heavenly Road was almost identical to Shura's sovereign's. Apart from them, there were many others who were similar or even better. There were Xian Huang and Joqian patriarchs who were as famous as Hongjun and Ro during the creation of the heavens. There were the remaining 4 beasts of heaven and earth, the Torch Dragon, Shilong, and Heavenly Phoenix from the Dragon and Phoenix clans, the guest of the Purple Cloud Palace, Xinyuanzi, Kuanpeng, Baizhe, and Xing Tian from the Witch and Demon clans, the 3 ancestors of the human race, Fuxi, Shinong, and Qiyu. These were the most elite group of people. Golden Immortals and Zenith Luos were everywhere, but now Zenith Luos and Demi-Saints were everywhere. Like Shura's sovereign, these people were basically below the saints and stood at the top of the pyramid of desolation. They were top-notch in all aspects. While Tai was known as the first person below the origin immemorial realm, he might not be invincible among the crowd. Even if some of them did not cultivate their bodies, the pressure here did not pose much of a problem to them. After all, to be able to cultivate to their level, peak demi-saints, lesser saints, immortals, and half-step origin immemorial realm, they all knew the importance of their bodies. Even if they did not focus on refining their bodies, they would still cultivate their chi and spirit. The Heavenly Road's opportunity did not choose those with the strongest bodies. It chose those who were strong in all aspects and had no obvious flaws. One did not have to specialize in cultivating their bodies like Wu people to prove one's path through strength, but it was fine as long as one did not hold them back. As such, their speed was not affected at all after entering the Heavenly Road. After all, Fong Qingshan was merely at the peak of the Golden Immortal Realm all those years ago, yet he was still able to desperately climb up to the peak of Mount Buzhou. The pressure here was merely on par with him, so how could it trouble the Azura Emperor and the others? One by one, they sped up and broke through like a hot knife through butter. It was as if there was no pressure at all. Soon, they surpassed many of the people who had entered first. They took the lead and were at the forefront, constantly pulling away from the people behind them. This sudden action naturally greatly stimulated the people who came later. They chased after each other, and some people who had already reached their limits were stimulated by this and took a few more steps, and even passed. Unfortunately, one couldn't rely on hot-bloodedness to make it to the end here. No matter what, strength was still the most important thing. Therefore, other than a limited number of lucky people, the others who forcefully climbed up not only didn't get any benefits, but they were also heavily injured. Luckily, they didn't hurt their foundations. As for the Azura Emperor and the other powerhouses who refined their bodies, or the peak of the Great Sage, and even the Lesser Sage and the Omnipotent, They quickly passed the first level of the heavenly road. As mentioned earlier, because 9 is the extreme of numbers, 9 by 9 returns to 1 is considered perfection. Therefore, the heavenly road was divided into 9 levels, and each level was an independent checkpoint. Each checkpoint was further divided into 9 stages, and each stage consisted of 9 steps. 9 by 9, there were 81 steps, and after returning to 1, one had passed the test of this level. After that, there was a large platform filled with thousands of praying mats. This was the reward for passing the first level of the test. One could request for spiritual treasures, fate, merit, cultivation methods, and even increase one's power of understanding, physique, and so on. As long as it wasn't too ridiculous. One could basically fulfill one's wish for primordial treasures and merit to prove one's path as a Renwan. At the same time, this was also a temporary resting place. When going through the heavenly road, one must continuously advance at the fastest speed possible. This was because once one stopped to take a breather, one would simply be courting death. This was because the pressure on the heavenly road wouldn't stay the same just because one stopped. It also wasn't to say that different heights would have different levels of pressure. Even if one didn't climb the obstacles on the heavenly road and stood in the same place, the resistance would still increase as time passed. Only when one completely passed this level would there be time to rest on such platform. At the same time, this platform was also a help to pass the next level. If one made a request and obtained an opportunity that could help one pass the next level, then it would form a virtuous cycle. Pass the level, obtain an opportunity, continue to pass the level, and use the opportunity to pass the level more easily. Of course, opportunities weren't invincible. It would only work if one happened to be stuck at the last step. Therefore, to forge iron, one had to be strong. Putting all this aside, after the Azura Emperor and the others passed the first level, they didn't delay at all on the platform. They didn't go to collect the so-called opportunity rewards, but directly entered the second level of the test. The reason for this was that they didn't use much energy to pass the first level of the test and didn't need a rest. As for the opportunity reward, it was completely dispensable to them. To be able to cultivate to their level, ordinary spiritual treasures, spiritual roots, and heavenly materials and earthly treasures were not of interest to them at all. Generally speaking, only the best spiritual treasures among the upper-grade spiritual treasures could slightly move them. Otherwise, even if they obtained them, they would just leave them on the shelf. After all, in the Desolation Realm, it was rare to see someone as unlucky as the Kuan Peng. However, even the Kuan Peng was sitting on 2 supreme treasures. One was the acquired supreme spiritual treasure, the Demon Master Palace, and the other was the primordial spiritual treasure, the 9 Heavenly Hurricane Whip. Though Hong Jun aimed to cultivate the younger generation of the Desolation Realm, they couldn't possibly give out primordial spiritual treasures for the first level of the test. Therefore, the Azura Emperor and the others didn't care about the so-called opportunities. Of course, even if they didn't care, there would still be people who went to collect them. After all, not everyone could be like them. To be able to easily pass the test without panting, the rich didn't care about these opportunities. Ignoring all of this, after passing the refinement of the physique stage and entering the next stage, the Azura Emperor and the others felt a completely different feeling wash over them. This time, it was the same as the refinement of the physique stage. All other abilities were suppressed, and only one ability was displayed. However, this time, it wasn't the power of the physique, it was the power of spiritual energy. This time, when the Azura Emperor stepped into the second stage, he felt an extremely condensed spiritual energy that surpassed normal spiritual energy. It was similar to the power of yin and yang, and the power of the 5 elements. It violently surged into his body. He couldn't defend against it, and could only watch as the spiritual energy entered his body. Feeling the violent spirit chi that seemed like it was going to tear his body apart, he felt as if it was going to tear him apart. There was only one way to resolve it, and that was to use his own spiritual energy to destroy it. Then he could use it for himself. This was a test, but it was also an opportunity, just like the previous refinement of the physique stage. Chapter 1205. The spiritual energy in the chi refinement stage wasn't ordinary connate spiritual energy, but the rarely seen connate spiritual energy of supreme grade attributes. The connate spiritual energy contained the extremely rare Hongjun Tiandao rhyme and rule fragments. Refining it could greatly improve one's qi cultivation, improve the quality of one's qi, and even improve one's understanding of Tao. Putting everything else aside, wasn't Kong Xian, the crown prince of the Phoenix clan, who shone brilliantly in the conferred god battle and became like a Buddha in the future, born from the innate five elements? Sanqing was formed from Pangu's primordial spirit and the qi of creation. Zhu was formed from Pangu's essence blood and the qi of Disha. The connate spiritual energy, especially those with special attributes, was extraordinary. It could be seen at the beginning of heaven's creation, but it wasn't easy to see it later on. It was because they didn't materialize, but evolved into grotto heavens or spirit treasures. Of course, the spiritual energy in the qi refinement stage might not be the most primitive or wuji qi, but it was definitely above the ordinary connate spiritual energy. However, the connate spiritual energy was extremely violent, just like chaos qi. It couldn't be directly absorbed and refined like ordinary connate spiritual energy. One's will had to be destroyed before it could be refined. In the qi refinement stage, there would be one special strand of connate spiritual energy at the first step, 2 strands at the second step, 4 strands at the third step, and so on. At the 9th step, there would be 256 strands of spiritual energy. After passing the 9th step and entering the 10th stage, the same thing happened again. Although the amount of spiritual energy didn't increase, the quality was greatly improved. For example, if the first 9 steps were the innately fire qi, after the 10th step, it might be the innate Nanmingly fire qi, or the innate supreme yang qi, or the innate fire 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 qi, wind qi, thunder qi, and fire qi. This was from the 10th to the 18th step, and it was the same after that. The amount remained the same, but the quality skyrocketed. This was the 2nd stage, the qi refinement stage. However, this wasn't a problem for Shura Sovereign and the others. Or rather, it was the easiest stage for the Desolation Sovereign and the others. After all, ever since Daozu attained the Tao in Hongjun and started to preach in the Purple Cloud Palace, the qi refinement Tao became popular. Everyone's achievements in qi refinement were much stronger than in body refinement. Although Hongjun held back and only talked about the period before and after the period, he only gave special attention to Sanqing, Niuhua, and Jundi. However, which of these people who could cultivate to the pinnacle of the quasi-sage realm was simple. Most of them had inherited the legacy of creation, fiend celestial, or primordial chaos. Even though they did not have the cultivation method after the primordial chaos, they had already comprehended the primordial chaos to the point where they were not much worse than Sanqing and the others. Moreover, just like the previous body refinement stage, the qi refinement stage didn't test the strongest qi refinement stage. It just didn't allow people to have obvious shortcomings in qi refinement. The first test was to refine his body, the second was to refine his qi, and the third was to refine his spirit. This trial tested the strength of one's primordial spirit and its application. The strong and the weak represented the foundation, while the application represented the technique, the end. This trial was the same as the previous two. Other than the cultivation of the primordial spirit, nothing else could be used. The body refinement stage used pressure, the qi refinement stage used spiritual qi, and the spirit refinement stage used illusions. After entering this stage, one would seem to fall into the surging mortal world. One would fall into all kinds of illusions that were vivid and lifelike. Although one would always think that it was fake, one would unknowingly fall into it and be unable to extricate themselves. He might evolve wealth, companions, methods, and places, giving one a top grotto heaven like the Kunlun Mountain, a connate cardinal treasure like the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth, a teacher like Hongjun, and a cultivation method like the All-Heaven Tao verification technique. It might arouse the 7 emotions and 6 desires in one's heart. For example, the dragon and phoenix races being schemed against, the Kuan Peng being suppressed, and even the deepest obsession, such as the primordial chaos that most people were obsessed with. In any case, it was like a heart demon. Whatever one was most unwilling to face, a corresponding image would be outlined here. This trial naturally could not pose any threat to Shura's sovereign and the others. After all, the Shura sovereign, for example, cultivated the Blood Sea Sutra, a divine art that led directly to the primordial immortal realm. It was all-encompassing, including the body refinement technique, the Blood Sea immortal technique, the Chi refinement technique, the Boundless Blood Sea true energy, the Spirit refinement technique, the Blood Sea dominator primordial spirit. Naturally, there were corresponding methods to deal with it. Essence, Chi, and Spirit were the foundation of a person and also the most basic. After passing these 3 trials, the next few trials would test one's combat power. In terms of combat power, one's realm was only the most basic standard. If the difference was not too great, one would not use it to compare. The most direct factors that could affect one's combat power were divine abilities, spiritual treasures, and experience. Therefore, the 4th trial tested the power of divine abilities. Not only did it test the power of divine abilities, but it also tested the consumption of divine abilities and the speed at which they could be used. Actually, this was easy to explain. Let's not talk about the power of the divine ability. If you cultivated a divine ability that was similar to the lightning palm, then you would really be a weakling, not to mention fighting with others. Even if the other party stood still and let you attack, in the end, nothing would happen to the enemy, but you would be exhausted half to death. As for the consumption of divine abilities, this was also the key. One needed to use the least amount of spiritual power to unleash the greatest power. Otherwise, if one's divine ability didn't hit the opponent, one would already be dead. What should one do then? The speed of one's divine ability was also very important. If one's divine ability was too slow and one was KO'd in the middle of using it, how could one do that? The 5th trial was a test of the spiritual treasure. This trial was a test of the grade of the spiritual treasure. At the same time, it was a test of the degree of refinement of the spiritual treasure, as well as a test of the utilization and compatibility of the spiritual treasure. The test of the grade of the spiritual treasure was very simple. If both of them were in the early stage of quasi-sage, and one of them had a top-notch primordial spiritual treasure, while the other had a low-grade primordial spiritual treasure, the former would definitely win if there were no special circumstances. As for the compatibility, it was related to whether the spiritual treasure could unleash its greatest power in the hands of the host. For example, if one cultivated a water attribute technique, but obtained a fire attribute spiritual treasure, it was obvious that the compatibility was not good. Out of 10, one could only unleash 70% of the spiritual treasure's power. As for the degree of refinement of the spiritual treasure, it was even easier to determine. If one wanted to unleash the full power of a spiritual treasure, one had to first completely refine the restriction within it. If one couldn't even do this, how could one talk about the rest? As for the application, it was the same as the application of the divine abilities in the previous trials. Some people couldn't unleash the full power of the spiritual treasure after obtaining it. Some people could unleash the full power of the spiritual treasure, while some could only unleash 200% of the spiritual treasure's power. The 6th trial was a test of experience and combat experience. Here, spirit, energy, spirit, treasures, and divine abilities were all gone. You could only rely on your instincts to fight, just like a mortal. Chapter 1206. Experience, especially the experience of application. This was a matter of utmost importance. Without application experience, no matter how high one's cultivation level was, one could only be an armchair strategist. Even if one's cultivation level was lower than one's, one might still be at a disadvantage in the end when faced with people who had walked out of the battlefield. Although it was good to suppress others with one's strength, the premise was that one had to know how to apply it. The first few tests were tests of essence, chi, spirit, numinous treasures, and divine powers. Why do they all have to apply the power of the body, the power of spirit chi, the power of the primordial spirit, the divine powers, and the numinous treasures? This was actually the reason. Although things were good, only by applying them flexibly could one use them as one's own arm and unleash the desired effect and power. As for powerful experience, especially after having rich experience in fighting, one could use one's power to achieve the effect of 10% of one's power and obtain the greatest results with the smallest price. Why were there so many famous martial arts masters in the modern era who couldn't even withstand a single blow from a fighting expert? In addition to the existence of some inferior people, a large part of the reason was that they had no actual combat experience. Putting these aside, there were a total of 9 tests on the Heaven Road. The first 3 tests tested the most basic 3 treasures of the human body: essence, chi, and spirit, which were the foundation. If the 3 treasures were not strong, or if there was one less piece, one might not be able to see anything in the early stages. One might even advance by leaps and bounds due to specialization in one, but the drawbacks would appear later on. This was like the bucket effect. How much water a bucket could hold depended on its shortest piece of wood. How far a cultivator could go would be limited by the neglected physical body, chi refinement, or primordial spirit Tao. The first 3 tests were the basics, while the middle 3 tests tested combat power, divine powers, numinous treasures, and experience. As for the last 3 tests, they tested nomological laws, providence, and actual combat. The nomological laws test could actually be summed up as combat power test. This test tested the degree of comprehension of the nomological laws, the level of comprehension, and even the application of the nomological laws. After all, after the zenith heaven golden immortal, one would cultivate the Tao of nomological laws. The primordial chaos realm was actually constantly consolidating and perfecting the nomological laws. At this stage, ordinary divine powers and spells were basically not of much use. Only great divine powers, supreme divine powers, and peerless divine powers could enhance the host's combat power. Of course, if he used the laws to activate the divine ability, it would naturally be twice the result with half the effort, and his might would also increase by more than 50%. After all, in the end, divine abilities were just the reproduction of nomological laws. It was just a matter of how many. If he used it more, he would become a great god. If he used it less, he would become a small god. The comprehension of laws was easy to determine. For the same level of laws, those who had comprehended the 5th level would definitely be more powerful than those who had comprehended the 6th level. Of course, this was under the same circumstances. If the person who comprehended the 5th level had a sacred art that was compatible with the laws, but the person who comprehended the 6th level didn't, the situation would change. As for the level of laws, it naturally referred to the difference between top-tier laws, high-tier laws, mid-tier laws, and low-tier laws. Comprehending laws like samsara and space-time was definitely more powerful than comprehending high-tier laws at the same level. Of course, there were exceptions. For example, those top-notch high-level laws might not necessarily be inferior to ordinary top-notch laws. As for the application of the laws, it was exactly the same as the application of the numinous treasures and divine abilities. The luck of the 8th test was easy to explain. As the saying goes, when the time comes, the heavens and the earth will work together, but when the time comes, the hero will not be free. Why did everyone want to be the main character? In fact, it was because the protagonist was born with great luck. If he was lucky, he could turn misfortune into fortune and misfortune into fortune. Even jumping off a cliff, he could encounter a blessed land and heavenly treasures. Moreover, every death tribulation would turn into an opportunity, allowing the host's cultivation to improve greatly. To them, the enemy was just a whetstone, an existence that would send them to their deaths. If they were unlucky, disaster would come from the sky while they were sitting at home. Even drinking cold water would be stuffy. The so-called divine abilities were no match for the heavens. In fact, it referred to fate and luck. Divine abilities were immeasurable. No matter how high one's cultivation was, if one's fate and luck were bad, even if one wanted to kill a thief, one would be powerless. This could be clearly seen from the Grand Master of Heaven in the battle of God's investiture. Although the Grand Master of Heaven's strength was not comparable to Laozi's, he was definitely not weaker than Primordial Lord and Jain. Moreover, he cultivated the way of the sword and had amazing combat power. He also had the immortal slaying sword formation. He could not be defeated by anyone other than the four sages. Excluding Laozi's hidden means, he could be called the number one among the sages. But what happened in the end? When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. The huge Jie school, where tens of thousands of immortals came to pay their respects, vanished in an instant. There was no place to live. As for actual combat, it was actually a test of combat strength. However, it was completely different from the previous 3 tests. This was a comprehensive test. It was not limited to mystical abilities, numinous treasures, or other things. Here, there were no restrictions. One could do as much as they wanted. Some people were born to fight. The more they fought, the stronger they became, just like the Wu people and the Azura clan. Some people could even break through in battle. Therefore, this test was different from the others. It was a real battle. It was not an assessment by Hong Jun, but a battle between the Azura sovereign and the others. Through the battle, the 10 strongest kings would be decided. That way, the others would be convinced. After all, luck, mystical abilities, numinous treasures, these could only be regarded as external things. There would be no harm if there was no comparison. Only by truly fighting would one be able to see where the disparity between them was. Although the first 8 tests were very difficult, it was still fine for the Azura sovereign. Even though he was born in the Blood Sea and was naturally suppressed, he still maintained an irresistible momentum. Advance, advance, advance. Pressing forward, nothing could stop his footsteps, just like 100 rivers flowing east to the sea. Although the difficulty of these tests was high for most people, and at least 99% of the people were eliminated, it was nothing for the Shura sovereign. Why were the disciples of the sage so arrogant? Actually, it was because they were a cut above others in every aspect. If the other disciples of the sage were like this, then the Azura sovereign that Fong Qingshan had carefully cultivated was even more so. He cultivated the Blood Sea Sutra, which led directly to the immortal realm. There was no need to talk about the cultivation of essence, chi, and spirit. In terms of mystical abilities, Mosquito Dauren had evolved and simplified his mosquito dragon sting into 2 mystical abilities. One was devouring, and the other was defense breaking. The devouring ability was not weaker than the Kuin Peng swallowing whale, and the heavenly dog engulfs the moon. The defense breaking ability was also very strong. Without top-notch innate defensive numinous treasures, one stab would be accurate. In terms of numinous treasures, he had the Blood Azura flag, the Halberd of Sin, the Demon Castle, the Bloodthirsty Jade Seal, and other top-notch innate numinous treasures. He also had the stage 13 Pure White Lotus. In terms of combat experience, in the entire desolation, apart from the Wu people, who would dare to say that they were number 2? As for luck, the Azura sovereign was the leader of the Azura clan. He inherited the luck of the Blood Sea, even though he was not the master of the Blood Sea. Chapter 1207. In fact, Mosquito Dauren was already preparing for the Shura sovereign to refine the origin of the Blood Sea and inherit the position of master of the Blood Sea. However, the Shura sovereign had been rather busy recently. He had been busy teaching Fuxi, purifying the North Continent, and assisting Chi Yu. After that, the heavenly road had descended. Therefore, he had not had the time to refine the origin of the Blood Sea yet. Although he was not the master of the Blood Sea, he was the pathmaster of the 6 paths of reincarnation, Azura path. He had also purified the North Continent and was the child of destiny of the North Continent. In the entire world, there were only a few people below the sages who could surpass him in terms of destiny. Even the 3 sovereigns might not be able to defeat him. As for the Dharma laws, the Blood Sea Sutra had perfectly replicated Mosquito Doran's cultivation path. Blood devouring and killing might not be top-notch, but they were still top-notch. Moreover, they were considered top-notch among the high-level Dharma laws. In terms of attack power and profoundness, they were not inferior to some top-notch Dharma laws. Only the final battle had given the Shura sovereign a tough fight. After all, the Heavenly Road had attracted too many experts this time. If not for the yin-yang, 5 elements, heaven and earth, reversal, the ancestral dragon, ancestral phoenix, Tai, the 12 Zuwu, and Mingi falling one after another, the competition would have been even more intense. None of those old fellows were simple. Because they could not achieve a breakthrough in their cultivation, they had been refining their dharmic powers and mystical abilities. If not for the Blood Sea Sutra and the 12th grade pure White Lotus, the Shura sovereign might not have been able to achieve the final victory. After all, the Shura sovereign had an obvious shortcoming: his cultivation level. After all, the Shura sovereign had been born late. Although he was comparable to a Khanate god and had the cultivation level of an early-stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal, which Khanate god was not the same. The strongest, like Laozi and the others, had the cultivation level of a peak Zenith Heaven when they were born. Fortunately, the Shura sovereign was lucky. He had Fong Qingshan and Mosquito Doran to help him wholeheartedly. Cultivating the Blood Sea Sutra, a peerless cultivation technique that led straight to immortality, was like a scorpion defecating in the entire Hongjun. He also had the bloodthirsty Jade Seal, the Blood Azura flag, the Fiend Castle, and the Halberd of Sin. He even had the pure White Lotus, a Khanate cardinal treasure. That was not all. Fong Qingshan had also planned for him the Netherworld, reincarnation, the North Continent, and the Human Emperor's merit. Even so, compared to Xinyuanzi and others, he was at a disadvantage in terms of cultivation realm. When he went through the path of heaven, he was only at the late stage of sage to be. But when luck came, it could not be stopped. Just as the Shura sovereign entered the gate of fate, it was unknown whether it was due to the power of heaven and earth, or if it was a coincidence that Chi was proving his way to the Renhuan plane. The Shura sovereign was Chiyo's teacher and the teacher of human sovereign. Just like how he had taught Fuxi in the past, he naturally had a share of the spoils. With the addition of fate and merit, the difference was about the same as when Fuxi attained the Tao, which was about 20%. Coupled with the previous experience of purifying the North Continent, fate and merit, the Shura sovereign used this power and momentum to cut off his obsession in one go. He became the 4th person after Hongjun, Laozi, and Fong Qingshan to kill all the 3 corpses. Not only did his cultivation break through the peak of the sage to be, but he also entered the half-step primordial chaos and became a 2nd sage. He also truly became the strongest group of people today. The Shura sovereign was not bad in other aspects. His shortcomings in cultivation realm had been made up for. Coupled with the Khanate cardinal treasure, the pure White Lotus, he was invincible. Therefore, although the 9th test of the Path of Heaven was difficult, he still managed to get one of the 10 cattail hassocks in front of the Purple Cloud Palace. And because he became more and more courageous as he fought, he not only enriched his battle experience. After all, there were many people who could pass the 8th test. There were at least 100 people who could fight in pairs, which was more than 100 battles. Even his cultivation level, which had just broken through, was instantly consolidated. Although he did not improve further, his foundation was more stable. Now, if he had a wisp of primordial mist violet chi, he could instantly break through to primordial chaos. Unfortunately, if Fong Qingshan had the primordial violet vapor, he wouldn't have to worry about the Shura sovereign being bullied by the sages after he left. Fortunately, although there was no primordial chaos purple chi, In truth, compared to the ancestral dragon, Tai, Dijiang, and the others, Shura Sovereign could be considered lucky. Even without the primordial chaos purple chi, there was still the path of heavens. Out of the top 10 cattail hassocks in the Purple Cloud Palace, apart from Shura Sovereign, the other 9 hassocks were taken by Zhan Yuanzi, Hao Yan, Fuxi, Qiyu, Zhulong, Hundun, Xian Huang, Progenitor Dumu, and the 9 heavens. Zhen Yuanzi, Hao Yan, Fuxi, Qiyu, Torch Dragon, and the others had nothing to say. The Torch Dragon was a figure of the older generation, and his status in the Dragon Clan was second only to the Ancestral Dragon. Zhen Yuanzi, Hao Yan, and Fuxi were old members of the Purple Cloud Palace. On the other hand, Qiyu was a rising star. The few of them, even Qiyu, were all famous people. On the other hand, not many people knew about the chaos, Xian Huang, Lady Mother of the Chariot, and the 9 heavens. There were 4 spirits in the world: the Azure Dragon, the White Tiger, the Vermilion Bird, and the Black Tortoise. The world also had 4 fierce beasts: Hundun, Qiongqi, Tao Wu, and Tao Tai. Primal Chaos was one of them. He was the last beast emperor of the vicious beast era after the God Rebel. He inherited the fate of the vicious beasts, or rather, the fate of the chaos demon god. However, back then, the ferocious beasts were hated by everyone. Even the primal chaos did not dare to show itself. Fortunately, his luck was not bad, and he obtained a great opportunity, allowing him to cultivate until now. He would become one of the most powerful people below the saints. Xian Huang was the same as the 5 elements: Yin and Yang, Qian Kuan Reversal, and Ro Hongjun. It was born from the chi of heaven and earth, but it had been in seclusion ever since the heavens were split open. His situation was similar to Kong Xian's. Kong Xian was the crown prince of the phoenixes. He was born after the great tribulation of the dragon phoenix, but it took him an entire eon to materialize after the great shaman-demon war. The reason for this was because he was refining and absorbing the energy of the 5 elements. It was the same for Xian Huang. However, he was refining the chi of heaven and earth, and he was cultivating the indestructible body of heaven and earth. This indestructible body of heaven and earth could not see through the golden body of merit and Pangu's real body. After mastery, it was comparable to an innate cardinal treasure, and its defense was amazing. However, Xian Huang did not only have a tortoise shell, but his attack was also very powerful. He had a top innate spiritual treasure companion, the Xian Huang Jian, which was comparable to the Godslayer of the past. Its attack was amazing. As for the Lady Mother of the Chariot, according to the cloud bookcase of the 7 lots, a man with 9 stars is the spiritual root of the 9 heavens, the bright beam of the sun and moon, and the Zongyuan of tens of thousands of grades. Therefore, the heaven has 9 chi, and the 9 stars are its spirit keys. The earth has 9 states, and the 9 stars are its divine masters. People have 9 holes, and the 9 stars are its life residences. The Yin and Yang 9 palaces use the 9 stars as its door, and the 5 mountains and 4 seas use the 9 stars as its abyss residences. Therefore, the Lady Mother of the Chariot was the mother of the 9 stars, and she was in charge of the life of all things in the world. She was very mysterious. She was in charge of the Jotian star before the great tribulation of the dragon and phoenix. Back then, when Di Jun and Tai obtained the starfruit tree by chance, she deliberately released it. Chapter 1208. The sky had 3 main stars, the sun, the moon, and the crescent moon. The sun gave birth to Tai and Dijun. The moon gave birth to Wangshu, Shiha, and Changxi. The sun and moon were formed by Pangu's left and right eyes. The crescent moon was comparable. The master of the crescent moon was born of progenitor Damu. Her high status was self-evident. However, she kept a low profile. Although she controlled the Zodion star and had the starfruit tree, she had never established a force. She even invited the Big Dipper and the crescent moon to cultivate with her. It was unknown if she sensed the catastrophe of the shaman and demon, or if it was a cosmic catastrophe. She didn't even go to the Purple Cloud Palace. It wasn't until the Great Shaman and Demon War that the Heavenly Road's opportunity opened. As for the Nine Heavens, he was like Xian Huang, cultivating since birth. Tai Xian said that there were 9 heavens. The first was the Middle Heavens, the second was the Enbi Heavens, the third was the Tsung Heavens, the fourth was the Gung Heavens, the fifth was the Bai Heavens, the sixth was the Qian Heavens, the seventh was the Xian Heavens, the eighth was the Shun Heavens, and the ninth was the Chung Heavens. It was also said that the sky was invisible. Ancestor Jiutian wasn't called the 9 heavens before. He was just one of them. He was called Ancestor Jiutian after he devoured the other 8. He didn't come out because Xian Huang wanted to cultivate the Xian Huang immortal body, and he wanted to devour the origin of the other 8. The 9 heavens wind whip that Fang Qingshan used to trade with Kuan Peng was actually one of the origin spirit treasures of the 9 heavens. These were the 10 who won the final victory and the last opportunity. As for the others, Hong Yun, Queen Mother, Jade Pool, Wang Shu, Kuan Peng, and Dragon Mother, they all missed the opportunity. Although they were unwilling, there was nothing they could do. After all, the Heavenly Road this time was the best in the world. It was also the fairest existence. That was because they had fought against each other before. What was there to say about losing to someone else? Looking at the 10 people who obtained the fortuitous encounter in the end, they were all quasi-sages. Furthermore, everyone had a supreme treasure with them. The Shura sovereign had the world-cleansing white lotus, and Fuxi had the Kongtong seal. Although these treasures were originally only top-grade Khanate spiritual treasures, after the shaman and demon were defeated, and especially after the return of the 3 sovereigns, they had now become great treasures of destiny. Chi Yu had the Pangu axe, the Candle Dragon had the Bell of Eternity, the Chaos had the 3,000 Demons illustration, the mysterious yellow immortal body was an innate defensive treasure, and the Lady Mother of the Chariot had the Star Seal. The only surprising ones were Xinyuanzi and Hao Yan. Although Xinyuanzi was also one of the top experts, he seemed a little too ordinary compared to Tai and the others. After all, he believed in Taoism's free and unfettered way of doing nothing. He hid himself and kept to himself. Apart from other things, Xinyuanzi was only famous for his earthly book and ginseng fruit tree. However, in reality, Xinyuanzi not only had the defensive treasure, the Nether Book, but also an offensive treasure, the Earth Horsetail Whisk, which was a spiritual treasure that matched the Nether Book. Just like the Holy Whip's list of deification and the Judge's Brush's book of life and death, they were all top primordial spiritual treasures and were among the top 10 primordial spiritual treasures of desolation. In addition, he actually had an innate treasure, the Mirror of Heaven and Earth, which was the spiritual treasure enshrined in the middle of the main hall of the 5 Villages Temple. It looked like an ordinary treasure, but who would have thought that it was an innate treasure, also known as the Desolation Catalog? If it was Xinyuanzi, although it was unexpected, it was still understandable. After all, not to mention his background, Xinyuanzi relied on the Nether Book to set up the Earth Protection Formation to protect the humans around the 5 Villages Temple when the Demon Clan was slaughtering the humans. It resisted the Zhodian Star Formation head-on. However, Hao Yan was really amazing. He was originally just a child in Hongjun, but who would have thought that he had hidden it so well? In addition to the top primordial spiritual treasure that Hongjun had given to Hao Yan, and that Fang Qingshan had traded for, Hao Yan also had an innate treasure. It was not the Lingxiao Palace of the Golden Arches, but the Dragon Throne of 9 Supremacy. Putting all this aside, these 10 people had seized the last opportunity. Although they could not ask for cultivation methods, spiritual treasures, and magic powers from Hongjun, ordinary cultivation methods, spiritual treasures, and magic powers were not worthy of their attention. After all, ordinary cultivation methods, spiritual treasures, and magic powers were not worthy of their attention. At the very least, they needed spiritual treasures at the level of the top 10 primordial spiritual treasures of desolation, as well as cultivation methods and magic powers of the origin realm. But even with Hongjuan's wealth, they would probably feel the pinch for a while. Fortunately, they did not receive these rewards, but they received a reward that was like that of a saint. Hongjun Tiandao opened up the fate and the great path for them to comprehend on their own. While the heavenly road was in an uproar, Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei had teamed up to find the Purple Cloud Palace for information and opportunities in the outer realm. Hongjun was not surprised by this. After all, he had already expected this to happen when he summoned Hutu. Perhaps this was what Hongjun wanted to see in private. To him, he had been wavering on whether or not to let Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei join him. He wanted Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan to help, but he did not want them to take advantage of him. But he wanted the horse to run, but he did not give the grass. Obviously, no one would be willing to do this. But if Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei did not join him, his chances of winning would drop by 50%. Therefore, deep down, he still hoped that Yang Mei and Yi Futian would join him. However, he did not want to give up too much and allow Fang Qingshan and Yi Futian to gain more and improve their cultivation. If they became a threat to him again, he would not be able to get rid of them. Therefore, he could not be too ruthless. Therefore, he did not immediately decide who would fight above the origin immemorial. Instead, he released Hongjun Tiandao's fate and let Sanqing and the others improve first, just like the 100-day sprint before the college entrance examination. If they really had the ability and fate, Hongjun would naturally be happy to see it happen. However, a red heart was prepared for two things. Sanqing had his own arrangements, but he could not give up on Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei. Therefore, he summoned Hutu earlier. On the one hand, he needed her help in the battle. On the other hand, he knew that Hutu would definitely inform Fang Qingshan if she knew about it. He wanted to tell Fang Qingshan through Hutu's mouth so that he could test him. The poison mark he and the others represented the opportunity of the infinite void. He believed that nobody in the entire desolation could refuse. Instead of waiting for him to find out that Sanqing and the others were useless and then begging for help, he might as well let Fang Qingshan and the others come to him. This way, he would have the upper hand. As expected, Hongjun's plan worked. After Hutu returned to the desolation, she immediately told Fang Qingshan the truth. Fang Qingshan discussed it with Yang Mei and then rushed to the Purple Cloud Palace. Since Hongjun had a plan, he naturally did not hide the Purple Cloud Palace. However, he did not expect that Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei would be so decisive. Almost half a day after Hutu and the others left, they came to him. However, this was good. The more impatient they were, the more stable he could be. He could pay more and plan more. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.